Hello everyone and welcome to another Tinfoil Tuesday. How are you all doing? I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. So we're finally here. We're finally on a day where we're covering Greg, Armoured Skeptic. You guys have begged me to do it, so fine. We'll do it. We'll do it live. Hope everyone's doing well. Alright, let's take a look at what I missed in chat before we get going. Meru-sama, thanks for 42 months, says 42 months. You've been doing this 42 months. It's been a lot of fun. Give kitties a kiss for me. I will. What else? Fenekagami says, yeah, Armored Skeptic Tinfoil. And Fenekagami says, really, Twitch? At something, which I don't know what that is. Stone Corbell, thanks for 41 months. Almost on a hype train. Let's start out with some conspiratorial hors d'oeuvres. Let's do just some shorter things, random stuff. Before we get into the other stuff, like Greg, which I'm not looking forward to, but it'll be interesting. You thought this was Wednesday? Wait, is it Wednesday? What is today? No, it's Tuesday. I was right. I was right. Have I had to cover a former peer on Tinfoil Tuesday yet? No. Greg being a peer of mine is sad. And also, what's even sadder is it's probably not even accurate. He was more popular than I ever was. Stromboli says, howdy Hannah, yesterday's stream was as much of a fever dream as I expected. I was too delirious to even chat, but it was a fun ride. Oh boy, Greg. It gets worse. For those who missed it, we watched the first couple episodes of The Pickup Artist yesterday. It was bad. And it only gets worse. Oh, I was lagging. Sorry, I made sure I reset the internet prior to stream in the hopes that it wouldn't, you know, be shitty. Sorry. Alright, let's get into some shorter stuff. Let me turn the music off.
While the other...
Oh, this looks lovely. This little place here only set you back $1,600 a month. That's what it says on Zillow, at least. Unstable Deadbeat says, off work sick today, but at least I get to watch Tinfoil stream, so that's a plus. Overthought with 100 bits kicks off a hype train, and Stone Corbell, thank you for gifting a sub. We're now on a hype train.
Alright, now this video is to the women.
Oh, good. That's always good when it starts off like that, isn't it? BD Kappa, thanks for 42 months. And Nick Snort, thanks for 41 months.
I know you guys are about to get mad at me, but I'm only repeating what the Bible talks about.
Oh boy, the Bible. Haven't heard enough from that.
And that
Level 1 complete. Thank you, everyone.
That is how a woman is supposed to dress. A woman is supposed to keep her body.
Is that black mold structurally important at this point, or is it mostly held up by the asbestos?
Body covered. She's not supposed to let it all hang out. Her body is supposed to be seen by only her husband.
How are you ever going to see a woman then? That's sad for you. Unstable Deadbeat, thanks for gifting a sub. Overthought, thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. And Altered Undying says, yay Hannah, hope you're well. I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing alright.
It's not supposed to be exposed out in the world. And if you are saved, then you should also know this, that letting your cleavage hang out and wearing tight clothing, that is not godly. That is worldly. I know it's been a hot summer.
Have you heard that cleanliness is next to godliness? It's not from the Bible, but it is said, so...
I'm not saying anything against that, but I'm just...
Ancient wisdom on the bingo card, and also that's not how women work on the bingo card.
Just saying, when you're out in public, you need to cover yourselves up. I know a lot of women don't think that that's important, that they could dress however they want, but...
Wow, almost like they're independent human beings with agency. Can you imagine? What a world. Fenekagami says, if it makes you feel better, Hannah, I only know who Greg is because of the H-Bomber video. I've never independently watched Greg's content outside of the 50 Shades review he did with June. So to me, you're more popular than him. That and another 100,000 subscribers. will make me financially stable. No, I'm joking.
There is a world full of people that are being sex trafficked.
What is this non sequitur?
Then, and
Forgot how much I pay for electrolysis? Oh yeah, my electrolysis has gone up too. It's like $80 for an hour now, and I do it 4 times a month. I'm getting closer to being done though, so that's good. It's expansive.
a lot of those, and at least half of them, didn't ask for that life. They were forced into it. While the other half thought that they could dress however they want and act however they want, and
to be clear, it is worth it. I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't worth it.
Engage in partying and whatnot, and it ended up in them being sex trafficked. And I'm fairly sure that
I whether or not you're going to be sex trafficked has nothing to do with your fucking outfit. This is the weirdest fucking victim blaming.
they don't want to be sex trafficked. Now, all these illegal immigrants coming in.
Oh, this is just gonna be a blender of all sorts of bad takes. Okay.
And, you're pretty much advertising.
Does it hurt? It's certainly not painless, but it's bearable. It depends on your level of pain tolerance, but with, like, pain reliever stuff, it's bearable.
Yourself on TikTok as grape meat. I'm not going to say the actual word because I don't want the video to get taken down. But the reason a woman is supposed to dress modestly is because she can be a stumbling block for men.
Hey, remember that time Jesus said, if your eye causes yourself to wander, then pluck it out? It's your own goddamn business. It's not on other people to keep you from having thoughts because you're a sexual being and you find certain people attractive. Stop being a creep. It's not anyone else's business that you have some weird hang-up about being a sexual being. Chill the fuck out. First name Bunch of Numbers, thanks for 19 months, says, another subiversary down, just got here and I already want to do a TOS violation.
Causing lust, which...
Minute left on the hype train.
Every woman that's ever been cheated on, that's why. It's because...
Whoa! He's got opinions.
Of the fact that you've been taught at a young age.
Are you telling me that this fine gentleman with this lovely home has probably not had one partner, but 2, and he has cheated on one with the other? My goodness. Stone Corbell, thanks for 100 bits, says, there's this story from Jewish tradition. It's not in the Bible, I don't think, but this guy fancied some woman, but she didn't want anything to do with him. So he went to the rabbis and was like, I'd die without this woman, and their response was essentially, then perish. That's not in the Bible. I like that one, though. 15 seconds left of the hype train. Fenekagami says, it's so interesting how much of the Abrahamic doctrine is about giving men power but no accountability for their actions. Yeah, unfortunately, hierarchical structures throughout history, not just Christianity, but many religions, any sort of solidified positions of power get used to that purpose. It's fucked up.
Age that's okay to have sex outside of marriage and that you can dress however you want. God's way is not the world's way. So, you guys need to start covering yourselves up. You don't want to listen to me, that's fine, but I'm just trying to look out for you.
I feel like he probably has more listeners in his room that are bed bugs than he does people who actually watch his TikToks unironically.
Also, that's, again, what the Bible talks about. I don't exactly know where. I don't quote scripture verse for verse. I don't know exactly where it's found. I just know it's...
I haven't actually read the damn thing, but I know it backs up all the things I want to say about what you should do with your body.
It's in there somewhere. So just...
Nah, you haven't missed anything. Thanks for the hype train, everyone.
Think about how you dress. And be respectful of others.
What in the world?
Canada is preparing for the fall of the U.S.
Are they now?
And they feel that after the 2024 election, it very well could happen. Canada anticipates that
Canada, the nation as a whole, the etheric, platonic entity that is Canada.
U.S.
He has Canada's phone number.
is at its tipping point, and it's just waiting for one last straw for all of it to collapse. Now, because of this, they already have
Unstable Deadbeat says, as a Canadian, can confirm.
plans in place to defend Canada and also seek treaties with other countries.
Defend it in what way? Like, what do you mean? You think America's gonna collapse and then what? It's not gonna annex Canada. You just worried about, like, American refugees? Cool beans.
To protect them because the U.S. wouldn't be able to anymore. Canadian officials truly believe that the U.S. will either 1. Fall into a civil war, or 2. Go into an authoritarian dictatorship.
Those are two very different things.
Depending on what
Whatever bad thing needs to happen for my conspiracy to be true.
happens with the elections. And I know people are gonna say, oh, if the Democrats do this, or oh, if the Republicans do this, but it's not gonna matter either way. Whatever side wins, probably 1 or 2 of those things is gonna happen.
Wow. What's important is that you constructed a theory in which you're smarter than everyone else. And that's good for you. I like that he very much couched the statement with caveats there too. Probably 1 or 2 of these things is gonna happen.
1 or 2 of those things is gonna happen. But that's just what Canadian officials are
Canadian officials. You know the ones.
saying and preparing for. But what do you all think about this? Let me know in the comments.
Jesus Christ. Is this guy, like, actually in control, or is the beard in control? I can't tell. Oh.
This goes out to all the Christians telling everybody that we're not in the last days and that no man knows the day or hour. What is that? One of only...
That's literally in the fucking Bible. Gnome Pickle says, what do I think? I think that the beard is maybe a sentient fungus that's actually controlling him. That's most likely.
3 verses you know in the whole entire Bible? Although no man knows the day or hour, the Bible does say that you will know the seasons of my return. What kind of seasons are you talking about?
The Bible says a lot of things, my guy. The Bible says a lot of things. Trying to avoid anti-vaxxers. At this point, I'm probably even just stalling. I don't want to do Greg, but we're gonna. Let's do Greg. Let's do it. Alright, you guys need to pick. Do we start with history is a lie? Or Jesus in the apocalypse? Wait, no. No. We'll start with this one. History is a lie. This is the first video, I think, that he did that was like this. So let's do it.
Okay, come on, Greg. You can do this. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here.
History is a lie, though. History is a narrative. I wouldn't say history is a lie.
This is going to be very different from anything I've ever made. Quick, somebody talk me out of this! Now, I know that I promised I was going to make my own conspiracy theory video, but this really got out of hand on me. I started off with just writing a script for a single video, laying out my new favorite conspiracy theory. Before I knew it, I'd gone full Charlie, laying out my own personal grand unified theory for all...
Can I just say I hate this affect? I hate... And this is probably why I'll never be a successful YouTuber, by the way. Is because I can't get myself to do, you know, I can't do an affect. Hey guys, welcome to the YouTube video. How's everyone doing? Make sure you smash that like button. Like, I can't do this shit. I can't. This isn't how Greg talks. This isn't how anyone talks. What is this? Stop it. Talk like a human being. Steakum, thanks for gifting a sub. And by the way, there's a difference between, like, performance and... the manner in which you give a presentation. It's fine to have a presentation manner, but this is so fucking fake.
conspiracy theories that ever existed. Oh my god. Welcome to the Armored Conspiracy Files.
Pummel Homestead, thanks for 200 bits.
Does that sound dumb? I'm keeping it. Please debate with each other in the comments section. I'm just trying to have some fun
Got a farm engagement.
and thought you
Steve with a Q, thanks for 37 months, says like, comment, subscribe.
guys would have some fun too. The conspiracy theory that sort of got me started into the whole genre way back in the day was the Giza Plateau. The Great Pyramid, the Red Pyramid, the Sphinx, and of course dozens of other structures, tunnels, and sites. Based on everything that we know on the historical progression of mankind, there's no way the dynastic Egyptians could have built the Great Pyramid in the
Racist disbelief of historical achievements on the bingo card. This is bullshit. This is like conspiracy 101 shit, Greg. And I know you know better than this. I know you know better than this.
the time period that history records, with the tools they had at their disposal, with the materials they built it with, in the amount of time.
The stones, the layers of the Great Pyramid, three-dimensionally lock into each other, and there
You can just say stacked. They're stacked onto each other. Yep.
are 2.3 million multi-ton limestone blocks.
Yeah. They spent a lot of their time building them. Mm-hmm.
Academia says that it was likely constructed over the course of 25 years. If that's the case, you would have to cut, move, and fit into place one block every 2 minutes.
This one? Don't know about that. Don't know about the math on that one. But even if it was, you could do that with a big enough workforce. Like, a skilled workforce could do that on average. The average would just be pulled up by times when people are putting a bunch at once. You know what I mean? Like, if you have thousands and thousands of people working on something, but I don't tend to trust conspiratorial math like that in the first place. Usually their numbers are wrong somewhere, so I'd have to get a citation for the number of blocks that comprise this individual pyramid. Seems like a vast overestimation. I don't think that this pyramid is made of over 1 million blocks. Could be wrong, though.
Not to mention
Now I gotta look this up. Sorry, give me a sec. Because this is gonna bug me if I don't.
And multi-ton.
Does he say which pyramid specifically this is?
with the materials they built it with, in the amount of time.
The stones, the layers of the Great Pyramid, three-dimensionally locked.
The Great Pyramid. How many stone blocks comprise the Great Pyramid of Giza? 2.3 million stone blocks. So he did say 2.3 over what period of time? Let's take a look. Let's just read an article about it because it's going to bug me. Why do I have to sign in National Geographic? Please stop. Don't do this to me. Here, Wikipedia will save us. Built over a period of 27 years, oldest of the 7 wonders of the world. Let's see about what it says about the construction. It was built by quarrying an estimated 2.3 million large blocks weighing 6 million tons in total. The majority of the stones are not uniform in size or shape. Roughly dressed, outside layer were bound together by mortar. Primarily local limestone from the Giza Plateau was used for its construction. Other blocks were imported by boat on the Nile, white limestone from Tura for the casing, and blocks of granite from Aswan, weighing up to 80 tons for the king's chamber structure. Toxaholic says, do you think Greg has genuinely lost his marbles, or is this grift? I could see being susceptible to them if that's the content you're taking in every day, but I don't know. My initial thing is grift, but I'm open to being convinced otherwise, but I think it's a grift. I don't think he really believes this. He was already off by 2 years, yes. But let's give him benefit of the doubt and say he's averaging down. Let's see what we can find about construction. A hillock forms the base of which the pyramid stands. It was cut back into the steps, and only a strip around the perimeter was leveled, which has been measured to be horizontal and flat within 21 millimeters. The bedrock reaches a height of almost 6 meters, or 20 feet, above the pyramid base at the location of the grotto. Along the sides of the base platform, a series of holes are cut into the bedrock. Lehner hypothesizes that they held wooden posts used for alignment. Edwards, among others, suggests that the usage of water for evening the base, although it's unclear how practical and workable such a system would be. The Great Pyramid consists of an estimated 2.3 million blocks, approximately 5.5 million tons of limestone. Goes on to say the weight and the number. Most of the blocks were quarried at Giza just south of the pyramid, an area known as the Central Field. So most of the material was gotten locally. Good to know. They're a particular type of nummulitic limestone, formed at the fossils of thousands of prehistoric shell creatures, blah, blah, blah. Other fossils have been found. The white limestone used for the casing was transported by boat across the Nile from the Tura quarries of the Eastern Desert Plateau, about 6.2 miles southeast of the Giza Plateau, which I assume is more the stuff that was used that looked good. I assume the local stuff was stuff that was maybe structural. I don't know that to be true, though. The granite stones in the pyramid were transported from Aswan, more than 560 miles south, the largest weighing 25 to 80 tons, form the ceilings of the king's chamber and the relieving chamber above it. Ancient Egyptians cut stones into rough blocks by hammering grooves into natural stone faces, inserting wooden wedges, then soaking these with water. As the water was absorbed, the wedges expanded, breaking off workable chunks. Once the blocks were cut, they were carried by boat on the Nile River to the pyramid. That makes sense. Sorry, I was checking something. The ancient Greeks believed that slave labor was used, but modern discoveries made at nearby workers' camps associated with construction at Giza suggest it was built by thousands of conscript laborers. Workers' graffiti found at Giza suggest haulers were divided into zau, singular za, group of 40 men consisting of 4 subunits that each had an overseer of 10. As to the question of how over 2 million blocks could have been cut within Khufu's lifetime, stonemason Frank Burgos conducted an archaeological experiment based on an abandoned quarry of Khufu discovered in 2017. Within it, an almost completed block and the tools were used for cutting it had been uncovered. Hardened arsenic copper chisels, wooden mallets, ropes, and stone tools. In the experiment, replicas of these were used to cut a block weighing about 2.5 tons, the average block size used for the Great Pyramid. It took 4 workers 4 days, with each working 6 hours a day, to excavate it. The initially slow progress sped up 6 times when the stone was wetted with water. Based on the data, Burgos extrapolates that about 3,500 quarrymen could have produced 250 blocks a day needed to complete the Great Pyramids in 27 years. A construction management study conducted in 1999 in association with Mark Lehner and other Egyptologists had estimated that the total project required an average workforce of around 13,200 people and a peak workforce of roughly 40,000. Considering that's over a 27-year period, I think that's, reasonable. There's a reason it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's because it required a very large workforce working daily for years, for decades. Almost 3 decades? That's why it's impressive. The fact that you personally can't imagine doing that has no bearing on the reality of whether or not it was done. It was done. We have evidence it was done.
Into each other, and there are 2.3 million multi-ton limestone blocks. Academia says that it was likely constructed over the course of 25 years. If that's the case, you would have to cut, move, and fit into place 1 block every 2 minutes.
Not to mention
A lot of people, you can do that.
how complex the design is, incorporating the golden ratio, incorporating the math for the
Fucking golden ratio. Yeah, they knew math. They had math. Oh my god. Profane Priestess says, I took an entire college course on ancient technology. You'll often see it claimed the ancient Egyptians did not have the tools to cut stone. This is, like many conspiracies, based in a half-truth in addition to the wood and water trench tech in the article. To compensate for the weakness of their tools, the Egyptians used abrasives. Sand sprinkled on the cut you wish to make allows friction to bridge the gap between the strength in your tools and the gap between the strength of your tools and that of your stone. So technique. Makes sense? Clockwork Van, thanks for gifting 2 tier 1 subs.
Dimensions of the Earth, including the distance of the Earth from the sun. It's in the geographical center of the Earth, pointing due north. The Great Pyramid isn't four-sided.
What the fuck do you mean the geographical center of the Earth? The Earth is a sphere. What are you talking about? So any point on it is the center if you consider it the center. Like, what the fuck does that mean? It's a sphere. It's on a sphere.
It's 8-sided. There's also the large granite blocks that are integrated to the interior of the pyramid that there's no way the dynastic Egyptians could have worked with.
You can't just say that. You're just saying things. You're wrong. Boom. Roasted. Like, what do you want me to do here? You're just saying false information confidently.
Copper's just going to blunt on granite. I can't believe it's going to cut the stone.
We're going to put sand inside the groove, and we're going to put the saw on top of the sand, and then let
This is exactly what you were just talking about.
the sand do the cutting.
Will we see any progress in our lifetime?
Yes, if you came back in an hour's time, you would see about a 4mm cut.
Sawing went wonderful once we...
Yeah, if you have thousands of people doing this, or even hundreds of people in teams doing this, you get a lot done because people are using their man hours cumulatively at the same time, which adds up. It's like when lawyers will bill you like X number of hours. If you have multiple people working on it, the hours go up because we're talking about man hours.
switched over to using
Work hours, labor hours, whatever you want to say. There's got to be a gender-neutral word for man hours. Just say labor hours.
water with the sand. As you can see here, we achieved this in just a few days.
And even if they did cut them like that, that doesn't explain how the blocks fit so flush with each other.
They're literally stonemasons. Even if they weren't at the time, over time erosion would have made the gaps kind of get gunked up. The edges would have gotten smoothed over, you know what I mean? It's just how time and erosion work. But also, literally this was their job.
You can't
Everyone knows the real center of the world is California. Oh god, what is that?
even fit a piece of paper or a needle between them. Go
Yeah, that's most buildings. That's how most buildings work. Their walls are walls. You're not supposed to be able to poke things through them. Like, you could literally stack two bricks just on each other right now, and you can't really put things between them because they're bricks. That's the point.
right next to
Like, what the fuck are you talking about, Greg?
door to the Sphinx. Not only is the body of the Sphinx far more eroded than the head, so
Okay. I would imagine there's a reason for that. Let me just off the top of my head come up with reasons. Closer to the ground, there's more things that are going to interact with it in terms of erosion. More dust, sand that gets blown around, probably near the base, than it does at the head. Again, that's speculative, but you're jumping directly to some sort of conspiratorial reason instead of trying to come up with a naturalistic reason for it. That's why, again, I'm feeling grift. I don't think Greg is like this. I think he's just a grifter. I think he wringed every little ounce of value he could get out of the whole, like, atheist skeptic thing, and he decided, fuck it, I'll make nonsense content, and some people will watch it because they're into conspiracies, and others will watch it because they'll be mad at me, and it'll be rage bait, and that's, I think, what he's doing.
suggesting that the head was actually recarved at a later date, but the walls around the Sphinx display advanced water erosion. Egyptologists believe that the Sphinx is between 3,000 and 5,000 years old.
Okay, probably listen to him then, Greg, because you're a fucking YouTuber.
However,
Briar Rose says, watching Greg, it seems very clear he has not worked in a job like masonry or sculpture, just so much disbelief in things people have been doing for thousands of years. That's all it is. It's incredulity. It's ridiculous.
some geologists have suggested that the water erosion would require hundreds of years of sustained rainfall, and the last time Egypt had a climate that would explain something like that was between 10 and 20,000 years ago, meaning that the Great Sphinx is at least 12,000
Wait, I missed
years
that. I
ago.
was
Explains
responding,
of
sorry.
years of sustained rainfall, and the last time
You understand that those could have been there prior, right?
Egypt had a climate that would explain something like that was between 10 and 20,000 years ago, meaning that the Great Sphinx is at least 12,000 years old.
That doesn't mean that, Greg. That's not what that means. Something nearby being older than that thing isn't that, and also the fact that you think that the only explanation is the climate and it couldn't have been something else. I don't think you're qualified to make that assessment. Kermit Cuttlefish says, we don't know everything about the construction of the pyramids, but we know an awful lot. For example, although the exact configuration of the ramps is still conjectured, we know there were ramps. They found the materials from them used as landfill, including the preserved remnants of the odd discarded lunch, like any building site. Oh, that's cool. Archaeology's cool.
And it was when I heard about all of
Anthropology, you know.
this that I became forever addicted to unraveling the mysteries of ancient human history.
Because you're an idiot? Like, again, I said to you guys, I'm going into this assuming that Greg's a grifter. I'm not just looking for evidence of that. I'm open to being convinced that he is fully on board with this stuff in earnest, but so far I just don't think he is. I think this is a cynical cash grab, and I think it's pathetic.
And trying to piece together a new timeline that actually explains everything that we see with our own eyes.
Profane Priestess says, Greg, the Egyptians were brilliant architects. Imhotep, yes, like the mummy, was an architect and engineer whose historicity is debatable, but his prowess was so respected that they literally worshipped him as a mortal avatar of the god Thoth. Egyptians were brilliant scientists, and doubting that just comes off as brown people can't be smart to me, usually. Overthought says, Wendigoon, he's trying to be conspiracy Wendigoon. That's the vibe I'm getting. Wendigoon does conspiracy stuff. But yeah, I agree.
The first time I heard about the water erosion around the Sphinx, I was only about 12 or 13 years old, but I remember it vividly.
Let's look this up. Water erosion around the Sphinx. Due to the Sphinx lying closely above the Nile aquifer, capillary action moves water to the surface of the stone. During this process, salt contained in the limestone is dissolved and drawn to the surface where it crystallizes. The expanding crystals cause fine layers of surface limestone to flake off. Okay, so it's not a weather thing, it's a geological thing involving literally, like, the Nile River basin. You're doing great, Greg. So far, it's taken like 10 whole minutes to Google things you're incredulous about.
The people who presented the theory were mocked and ridiculed, and the fallout
I'm sorry, archaeology.
from the debate forced a spotlight onto an uncomfortable and major flaw in the archaeological community.
Greg, big brain boy, YouTube atheist, Milady, he's about to debunk the entire field of Egyptology. Buckle your seatbelts, folks. This guy's really serious.
Their refusal to
He's taken the red pill, guys.
accept evidence that doesn't fit the accepted historical paradigm. But a lot has happened since the 90s, and our paradigm has shifted quite a bit, mainly because of the discovery of Göbekli Tepe, a pre-Neolithic civilization that predates the oldest known
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to look this up, aren't I?
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe. Settlement was inhabited from 9,500 to at least 8,000 BCE during the pre-pottery Neolithic. This is famous for its large circular structures, contain massive stone pillars, the world's oldest known megaliths. That's cool, and that's interesting. That doesn't make Greg's thing true, though. This is an interesting thing with conspiracy theorists, is they'll look at something that has an ounce of truth, like, oh, look, we found something that, shows that the history of civilization goes back further than we knew. That's interesting. New information comes and changes our understanding of different studies all the time. But Greg is saying because of that, that lends credence to my thing being true, his thing being true. That's not how this works. Just because someone else discovered something that goes against what was thought to be the general knowledge doesn't mean that your outlandish thing is any more or less true. This is like weirdly fallacious. And again, I know Greg knows that because he's covered Kent Hovind. This is a fucking grift as far as I'm concerned. Fenakagami says, is it really impossible that he's just fallen down a rabbit hole? I mean, he was never that good a skeptic, and you've said it yourself, conspiracy, brain rot, and incentives aren't mutually exclusive. Dollar incentives. Theories of all religions being connected are all over the place. Look at Zeitgeist. It's really hard to believe his blasé and arrogance and his intelligence led him to fall for bullshit. He had already fallen for bullshit. Maybe this is really far, though. We'll keep watching. I'm open to adjusting my interpretation. Gnome Pickle says, the ancient aliens thing can often be traced back to the... oh boy... Anibri, the Third Reich's archaeology department, who conquered Europe to find evidence of Atlantis that they thought was where the ancient Aryan race came from. So they thought that the Aryan people, quote-unquote, were magic and meant to rule the world. Ancient aliens is literally a tool the Third Reich used to invalidate ancient peoples and justified their butchery and popularized this conspiracy theory. Yeah. A lot of bullshit, conspiratorial shit, does come from Nazi Germany, unfortunately. I'm trying to remember his name. Anton Shea Productions has a video about that. It's pretty good. Logarth says, cool fact about this place, the surrounding areas have many ancient farming villages that are also being excavated and studied. They think this area of Turkey is one of the earliest examples of domesticated wheat, as foraging tools and farming tools are found side by side. That's really cool.
A pre-Neolithic civilization that predates the oldest known civilization, Sumeria, by around 7,000 years.
That's great. That's cool beans. That doesn't mean your thing is true, right?
Most people recognize Graham Hancock. He's basically the face of lost ancient history. I'm not really a huge fan, but I can't deny...
Yeah, I'm sure you're not. Fucking liar. Let's see, Greg Hancock. Let's see. Graham Bruce Hancock is a British writer who promotes pseudoscientific theories involving ancient civilizations and hypothetical lost lands. Hancock speculates that an advanced Ice Age civilization was destroyed in a cataclysm, but that its survivors passed on their knowledge to hunter-gatherers, giving rise to the earliest known civilizations of ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Mesoamerica. Lovely. Unstable Deadbeat says, on Survivor this season there were cast members called castaways, sharing their belief in aliens and citing these kind of conspiracy theories. It was really sad to see a major TV show air these kinds of things with no way to debunk them for their large audience, which I would suspect is made up of a lot of people who would not question it. People are stupid, unfortunately. Yeah. Anyway. His degrees in sociology, good lord. He stated that from about 1987, he was pretty much permanently stoned, and I felt that it helped me with my work as a writer, and perhaps at some point it did. Oh boy. His books include Lords of Poverty, The Sign and the Seal, Fingerprints of the Gods, Keeper of Genesis, The Mars Mystery, Heaven's Mirror, Underworld, The Mysterious Origins of Civilization, and Talisman, Sacred Cities, Secret Faith. Oh boy. And Hancock's book Talisman, Sacred Cities, Secret Faith, Co-authored by Robert Bauval, the two put forward what sociologist of religion David V. Barrett called a version of the old Jewish Masonic plot so beloved by ultra-right-wing conservative theorists. They suggest a connection between the pillars of Solomon's Temple and the Twin Towers, and between the Star of David and the Pentagon. Overt anti-Semitism, and 9/11 out of nowhere on the bingo card. A contemporary review of Talisman by David V. Barrett for The Independent pointed to a lack of originality as well as basic factual errors, concluding that it was a mishmash of badly connected, half-argued theories. In a 2008 piece for The Telegraph referencing Talisman, Damian Thompson described Hancock and Bauval as fantasists. Hancock's supernatural Meeting with the Ancient Teachers of Mankind was published in the UK in October 2005 and the US in 2006. In it, Hancock examines Paleolithic cave art in the light of David Lewis Williams' neuropsychological model, exploring its relation to the development of the fully modern human mind. Oh, look, he has a whole section called pseudo-archaeology. Hancock does not agree with archaeologists that the earliest known civilizations arose independently. He speculates that there was an advanced civilization during the last ice age, that it was destroyed in a natural cataclysm during the Younger Dryas, and that its few survivors traveled the world introducing agriculture, monumental architecture, and astronomy to hunter-gatherers, giving rise to civilizations like ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Mesoamerica. Hancock argues that evidence is found in ancient monuments, which he believes are much older than archaeologists say, and also in myths like Atlantis. Atlantis on the bingo card. He recycles the ideas American Congressman Ignatius Donnelly put forward in his book Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, 1882, which have been long discredited. Cites a debunked source on the bingo card. Archaeologist Flint Dribble, fun name, says Hancock's claims reinforce white supremacist ideas, stripping indigenous people of their rich heritage and instead giving credit to aliens or white people. Hancock's claims and methods are regarded as pseudo-archaeology. In Archaeological Fantasies, Garrett Fagan points out that pseudo-archaeologists cherry-pick evidence and misrepresent known facts. When apparent factual claims in their work are investigated, it turns out that quotes are presented without context, critical countervailing data is withheld, the state of understanding is misrepresented, or critical archaeological information about context is ignored. Fagan gives two typical examples from Hancock's book, Fingerprints of the Gods. Hancock wrote that the best recent evidence suggests that, end quote, oh wait, no, why is the quote there? Weird. Hancock wrote, the best recent evidence suggests that large regions of Antarctica may have been ice-free until about 6,000 years ago, referring to Peary-Rees map and Hapgood's work from the 60s. What is left entirely unmentioned are the extensive studies of the Arctic ice sheet by George Denton, published in 1981, which showed the ice to be hundreds of thousands of years old. When discussing the ancient Bolivian city of Tiwanaku, Hancock presents it as a mysterious site about which very little is known, and that minimal archaeology has been done over the years, suggesting that it may date to 17,000 years ago. Yet, in the years prior to these statements, dozens of studies have been published, major excavations were conducted, and the site was radiocarbon dated by 3 sets of samples to around 1500 BCE. The Maya are portrayed by Hancock as only, quote, semi-civilized, and their achievements as, quote, generally unremarkable, to support the thesis that they inherited their calendar from a much older, more advanced civilization. Okay, so it's exactly what you think it is. It's old school, like, bullshit fake archaeology that's basically positing that nothing can be invented if white people didn't do it. Good job, Greg! Bittergrin says, here's like 3 hours of an archaeologist taking down Hancock's Netflix show. He got a Netflix show? Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, we're fucked.
Deny what he's done for the field. However, he and a few others in the field seem stuck.
He's not in the field. He's not an archaeologist. Jesus Christ.
Ironically, on an old, unflexible paradigm themselves. Also, John Anthony West, concerned with unpacking this lost civilization and solving the riddle of the Sphinx.
He kind of looks like the dad from Tarzan. All right. Right on.
Sphinx. And then there's Brian Forster. He's the one that woke me up to the fact that many megalithic sites have amazing stonework that we can't explain.
Oh my god.
But on top
Your ability to not explain something does not make it inexplicable.
of that amazing stonework, there's terrible stonework that the world's shittiest mason wouldn't put his name on today. There's more to it than that, that's an oversimplification, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that a lot of these sites, like the ones in Peru, were actually built a long time ago, then abandoned for some time.
No, there isn't, Greg. Stop lying to your audience.
And then reoccupied later by the Maya and the Inca. And the Maya and the Inca even have stories themselves about how their cities were built by the gods. For example,
oh my god, so many different civilizations have cities about ancient gods or ancient beings that brought them something, knowledge or technology, fire, you know? Come on. Are you gonna say that because of the story of Prometheus, that means that the Greeks didn't know how to make fire until someone came and showed them? Like, you know what I mean? You're very specifically doing this to certain societies, Greg. Why is that?
this wall has extremely complicated cuts in the stone. Each stone is wedged so tightly.
Oh my goodness, can you imagine people whose entire lives were built around being a mason because that was their craft and they were craftsmen knowing how to do their craft well? Holy shit.
Together that you can't fit a piece of paper between.
That's how bricks work, Greg! That's how fucking bricks work! That's how walls work, Greg!
But behind the surface, the stones appear to have been melted into each other like Play-Doh. These
No! You idiot!
design
They were shaped and...
features make the
We're
wall
good. We're
almost
good.
earthquake-proof. Not that I ever
Fucking earthquake-proof? What are you talking about?
took it too seriously, but I always followed research on the idea of Atlantis, the concept of this advanced civilization that was wiped away by a flood, and we
It's literally it's a story. It's a fictional story. It's an allegory.
keep finding these hints. Later, I'd find out about the Younger Dryas period, a time about 12,000 years ago when the North Pole suddenly melted and then refroze, and at the same time, there's a noticeable rise and lowering of sea level, and the extinction of a good deal of megafauna in North America. That is, I didn't take this too seriously until just recently there was discovered a comet impact crater in southern Greenland from 12,000 years ago. When that baby hit, it would have vaporized a good deal of the ice cap that would have rained down on the Earth for months, and because of its close
Is he gonna say this is Noah's Ark?
proximity to the Arctic Ocean, that impact would have caused a massive tsunami that would have wiped across a good deal of the northern hemisphere. Together, those two effects would have made it seem as if there was a massive global flood.
My understanding was that the current, like, and I am just a dipshit on the internet like Greg, but I'm trying my best. I thought that the current, like, thought about why flood myths was just because, A, floods are prevalent, so you're gonna have flood myths, but also, like, early civilization, like in the Indus River Valley, having, like, moved there after rising sea levels had kind of pushed them away from the coastal areas during some sort of extreme weather event. Again, there's no such thing as a global flood, but floods happen and they're common. So.
This helped to explain some of the impressive carvings that we found at Göbekli Tepe.
Civilization tends to pop up around water because we need it to survive and to do things, and floods happen and they're devastating, so cultures are going to have flood stories. Briar Rose says, the Younger Dryas did have raising water levels over hundreds of years, not noticeable in a human lifetime.
Which seems to depict the story of a great comet. Comets have always been considered bad omens throughout history, and perhaps that's because collectively we have a historical memory of this major impact event.
That's not how humans work. Do you just not realize that humans think dumb things? We see patterns in things where there aren't any. There's no reason for it. This would be like saying, oh my goodness, some people think the number 13 is scary, so it must actually have significance. No, sometimes people just come up with stupid ideas. Fenekagami says, Greg, kids were apprenticed at like 4 and their whole lives for that job. This made the fact that people struggled to make it to 30 less of a big deal when it comes to mastery. The 30 thing is misleading. The average age in some periods might be 30, but that's because the infant mortality rate pushes the average way down. There were people who lived older than 30, you know?
So,
plenty of people.
If this is true and we've unlocked Atlantis, and we've managed to prove that they were more advanced than later civilizations, does that mean that they were completely wiped away by the flood, or did some of their knowledge survive?
You haven't demonstrated that any of that's true in the first place. This is nonsense.
Why did the Freemasons and countless other occult groups...
The Freemasons aren't an occult group. What are you talking about? Freemasons on the bingo card.
Venerate the pyramid. Do they know what it means?
The pyramid is a work of stonemasonry, and the Masons started as a trade guild for stonemasons.
So that got me thinking.
Who is this guy? He's a YouTuber. He was big in sort of the, like, YouTube atheist community in, like, you know, a decade ago or so. And he's apparently shifted to conspiracy guys, or conspiracy stuff. He's shifted to being a conspiracy guy.
If the Inca and the Maya could end up occupying cities that they themselves didn't build...
They did build them, Greg. Again, you're acting as though you have already demonstrated these things. You have not set the groundwork for this. You've said a bunch of bullshit.
But history would record it as if they did. Do you think the same thing could happen to us? But I didn't just find patterns with the building layouts.
He found fucking patterns!
I found entire themes that survived from Egypt all the way to the Victorian era. And I know
holy shit. Themes in human society? It's almost like we're all the same species and have the same brains. Weird.
Oh, that sounds crazy, but a lot of the major architectural styles that existed between those two eras are actually tied together.
Craig, do you understand that architecture... There's an art to architecture, of course. But engineering is also important. So like domes, those are common because they're a strong shape to build something for durability. Pyramids last a long time because they're stable. Arches, these can all be discovered separately because they're just based on physics. They don't require a central, like, originator. Logarth says, also something people have always forget. The ancient world was so colorful. Rome was painted, Galeb Teki was painted, Egypt was painted all over, but old paint, even new paint, doesn't last 50 years, forget 12,000 years. Yeah. People like color.
So that means this whole thing ties into the Notre Dame
Oh, what the fuck?
Spire. Notre Dame was built with all the same principles as the Giza Plateau.
Physics. Architecture.
And served...
Oh, sorry, Gnome Pickles. Gnome Pickles said, why are there so many pyramids? Huh, I don't know. Maybe because people like to stack things, and pyramid is an efficient shape to stack things into. It's true.
The same function. And now, with the spire gone, it no longer does function. Whoa! What am I saying? You're talking crazy, Greg. And if
this is... Okay, I gotta say it again. I just think this is a grift. I think he doesn't believe a single thing of this. I think he thinks his audience are idiots, or he's trying to get at the point he made this video. Because he's done many things like this since then. 4 years ago when he made this video, this was his pivot into conspiracies. I think he stopped giving a shit about being, like, honest and just said, fuck it, I need to make money and get views. So I'll just get an audience full of idiots and use the same bullshit that I used to debunk in order to now get an audience who will watch whatever bullshit I shit out.
I'm right, which I probably...
Now, this is 4 years old.
This'll destroy everything you know about human history and who we were before the Victorian era. This is one of the temple structures in Royal Palace Park, Cambodia. What you're seeing and what you're hearing, as far as I know, is not real.
But I'm gonna show it to you anyway, because I'm definitely not trying to convince you to keep watching my nonsense, wink.
All the sources of this video lead to a single Flat Earth YouTube account, and the owner of that account told me that he doesn't remember where he got it. But let's look at this as a proof of concept. In theory...
Why? Why would you do that? This is such bullshit. You're so blatantly using motivated reasoning, it makes me want to vomit. You should be taken off YouTube specifically because you're such a grifter and a liar, in my opinion, Greg. I'm so disappointed in you. I know we didn't talk very much because I wasn't really the person who got, you know, people on chick tracks, but holy shit, I genuinely wish I'd never heard of you before. How do you live with yourself doing this every day, Greg? You know better than this. You're no better than Kent Hovind. The fuck is wrong with you? You should be ashamed of yourself. Chromatic Cuttlefish says Notre Dame was built with arches, which were a Roman innovation several thousand years after the Giza pyramids.
What the creator wants to convey is that atmospheric energy is being collected by a fractal antenna on the roof of the building, and that the reaction is causing an audible resonance. Those balls of light that are floating around are supposed to be plasma.
I want to talk to Greg now. I'm mad at him.
Theoretically is a free energy device that's been integrated.
What do you mean it's theoretically? Like, see how far he's jumping? He doesn't even believe this shit. He looked up as many conspiracy theories as he could and tried to cram them into a video, try and start this new image as this conspiracy guy, and he's trying to act, he's doing the thing, or he's trying to act like, I don't know guys, I was pretty skeptical. But now that I looked at this and didn't try and falsify any of it literally at all, I'm starting to be convinced, guys. That's a rhetorical tactic where you pretend to be neutral when in reality you're trying to convince someone of something. It's bullshit. And Greg isn't even good at pretending that's not what he's doing.
Into an old building. And this seems kind of silly, but there's people out there who believe that this kind of technology not only existed back then...
Oh, the kind of idiots that you're trying to come and give you money, Greg? That?
But has existed all throughout human history.
Dr. Gamble says, that's just words you're just saying. Random words, Greg. Also electrical engineers. Free energy.
And through the majority of human...
He's such a skeptic. He doesn't believe in the laws of thermodynamics, because it'll get him clicks.
History have been integrating this technology into their buildings all across the world, until all knowledge of this history was erased 200 years ago. The Illuminati has apparently accomplished this by capitalizing on massive natural disasters like floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and mudslides, and then just cleaned up the mess and made up a story about a plague or a war to explain all the bodies. And
no. Plagues and wars happen, Greg. You know this.
Fake fires to explain all the missing buildings.
Yeah, he's doing mud flood, I think.
Then collect and reuse the old masonry to build the next civilization.
Oh my god, he's gonna say it, he's gonna say it, he's gonna say it. Free masonry. He's gonna do it, he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it.
Masonry? Lying around? Free for the taking?
Incorrect word origin on the bingo card. Someone send this clip to Greg, unironically. Clip this and send it to him. You are such a fucking grifting liar, in my opinion. You should be ashamed of yourself. This is what you've done. You've become all the things you used to fight against. You used to make fun of Kent Hovind, and now you're being 10 times more embarrassing. How do you sleep at night? Fucking pathetic. End scene. Princess Amelia, thanks for 35 months, says, hooray, it's the worst and smuggest, wrongest man.
Just
Dr. Gamble with a link.
Liar, dude. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. Holy shit, dude.
Excuse me.
Holy
I'm sorry.
fuck.
I concur.
any old Mason could just take this for free. Just all this free masonry lying around. You know what I'm saying? History tells us that this is a photo of a destroyed city after a Civil War battle. But what if this is an old abandoned city that was...
It's not. It's a city damaged from a Civil War battle.
destroyed by an earthquake and fire, or a solar flare, or some other natural disaster? What if they just found the city like this, and then...
Greg, you understand that white people weren't the first people in the United States, right? Like, other people lived here. You're acting like white people showed up to the United States and just found a bunch of empty buildings. There were civilizations of people around here already, Greg. The indigenous people of the United States and the rest of the Americas.
And rebuilt it and called it their own. What else seems to stick out about these older buildings in these historic towns is that they seem to be slightly buried into the earth.
This has been explained before. A, sometimes they see the foundations of buildings and don't understand what a foundation is because you don't normally see the foundation of buildings and they think it's just an extension of the building, and don't understand that in order to build a building, you need to have a foundation so it doesn't collapse on unstable whatever. It needs a solid foundation, and it'll sometimes be like deep in the earth. Also, there are actual cities where they have literally, after disasters, built a level or so up for one reason or another. We know that. There's historical record of it. You can go see tours of the underground areas in these cities. It's not a secret. It's not a mystery. We literally have records of it being done. What are you doing? What are you doing?
And a little bit more than what you'd expect from just natural sediment over time. As if mud had just flowed into the city and filled in the lower levels of all these buildings.
No, that's not how anything works. We know that's not how anything works, Greg.
And that brings me to the name of this conspiracy theory.
Mud flood.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the Mud Flood. Ever since high school, I've been obsessed with history. Why history? I don't know. I've just always absorbed it like a sponge. Straight.
Okay, probably time to throw this sponge out and get a new one. It's gone bad. Greg, all you're doing here, and I straight up think he knows what he's doing. This is disgusting. This frustrates me to no end.
Straight out of high school, I ended up taking a summer job as a tour bus operator, and that was perfect because Kingston, my hometown, is actually a historic city with French settlers dating back to about 1673, and that helped me really carve my teeth on my knowledge from around that era to about 1850. That was around the time that all the interesting stuff happened in Kingston. Nothing's really happened since then. Oh, a waiter here was the first Canadian Idol. So...
He's so good at history, guys, that he can't think of anything that happened except for the stuff that he learned while he was working as a tour guide. He's real good at absorbing history. Specifically the stuff he had to learn to work his job as a tour guide.
Yeah. And now I know Kingston like the back of my hand. The tourism industry reigns supreme here, and as my role as a tour operator, I ended up getting to access parts of the city that most people don't even know exist. It turns out that I am actually uniquely qualified to discuss the mud flood conspiracy theory.
No, you're not.
Because most of the structures they discuss date between the 16 and 1800s. And
You were literally a tour guide. That does not give you expertise in history. It means you can tell people snippets that were told to you to tell them in your training about the places you take them when you are guiding them on tours.
And they share features with several structures here in Kingston. There's a lot of different concepts that the mud flood theory tries to incorporate. Some of the stuff
You want me to interview him? I'd love to. I can't imagine he'd be interested, though, because again, as I think he is a intentional grifter, I don't think he would want to be interrogated or discuss this, like, on a live stream. And, like, I'd be fair. I'm not going to yell at him in person necessarily. Certainly not at first. But I don't think he wants to be questioned on this because it's an obvious grift, and if it gets poked even a little bit, it's even more obvious.
Just completely stayed away from because it just seems like nonsense. But I'm going to go through as many of the more interesting and more plausible theories as I can in this video. But this series is...
We gotta look at the bingo card real quick because we already have so much shit from this. This is gonna end up being the only video we cover today. Jesus Christ. Illuminati Freemasons. That's not how women work. I'll say Tartaria for this. Aliens were mentioned. Atlantis, thinly veiled anti-Semitism, cites a defunct source, 9/11 out of nowhere, incorrect word origin is evidence, idiot says they're a genius, word salad, Jesus. My research said by a non-researcher, doesn't understand architecture, correlation isn't causation. I'm gonna put shilling scamming for Greg, in my opinion. Roblem, thanks for gifting us up. Racist disbelief of historical achievements. Believe sci-fi tech actually exists. Spurious symbology is evidence. Staggering levels of hypocrisy for just literally everything Greg is doing. Ancient wisdom. Woo! That is a full up card. Holy shit. Rublem, thanks for gifting another sub. We did covert anti-Semitism, or thinly veiled, I think. He's not in Michigan, to my knowledge, now.
Inevitably going to grow because there are several subjects that I want to make an entire video just focusing on. Yes, they all realize that most buildings have basement windows, but even then, decorative features such as arches are buried under the earth and...
Greg, again, where the street level is has changed in several cities at least. We know this. It's such a common known thing that Futurama made a joke about it. That's why New York is under New York. It's a play on that.
Nobody would design a building like that. The conspiracy theory community uses the term mud flood, but that could mean several things. Landslides, mud volcanoes, yes, that's a thing. And a powerful enough earthquake can shake the soil to the point where it liquefies.
Oh,
I suppose we have to consider the
God.
possibility that that's sediment that's been built up over time. But cities get buried under the earth all the time. Now, nobody in the mud flood community can seem to agree on whether or not there were several mud floods or just one, and if they all happened at...
It's almost like they're not basing their beliefs on any sort of objective evidence that they can all look at and agree upon or test. It's just like they're just making shit up.
the same time around the world. But the mud flooders present some pretty compelling evidence that...
No, they don't.
almost every single one of these cities has been buried under at least one story of mud.
Greg, if you found their arguments compelling, you need to get a CAT scan yesterday.
And that there is no record of this happening. And this is all around the world. Russia, France, England, Japan, China, Singapore, Australia, Turkey, India, South America, Mexico, United States, Canada. It's common knowledge that Rome was buried under feet of earth. Egypt was buried, of course. Using this logic, I went around my hometown to see if I noticed the same thing. And you know what? I did. In fact, almost every single feature these mudflood cities have resemble Kingston, Ontario. Most original structures that stand today date between 1830 and 1850. There's a big mess though, because before the Kingston Heritage Committee was created, they would just level buildings indiscriminately. Now you have to do an archaeological dig every single time you want to build something downtown, and every single time they end up finding foundations for older structures. One thing mudflooders will do is they'll start throwing photos at you of just random people excavating mud. Some of them, completely out of context, makes...
That's literally the vast majority of this entire conspiracy is that, and you're still doing it, Greg. You did it with the other photos.
It seem like maybe they're just digging out a buried city. But others, you can't really deny that that's what they're doing. Here's an anomaly for you in...
Greg. In city development, they end up having to move dirt around. Like, if they want to, they move big hills, get rid of them so that the area can be flatter. The construction of cities can also mean engineering the environment. Okay.
Omaha. This is St. Mary Magdalene Church. The city apparently decided to regrade the streets and level out all of the steep hills. So people started digging out the church, and after they finished excavating it, they discovered that 2 stories of the structure were submerged under the earth. Do you see where these faux pillars flare out at the bottom? This is an indication of where the ground level should be. And you see this side? All these beautiful arched windows? Okay, well, this one's actually an easy debunk. An article in the Omaha World Herald says that during the street grading, they hired a contractor to build the bottom story and the foundation area. However, I will admit that it's very strange that they would build a brick foundation for such a tall, heavy structure that's obviously built on soil instead of bedrock, but heh, I'm no building expert. And some...
Yeah, you're not, so shut up. Alpha. Alpha Marioc says, turn all the large cities into Mario Kart courses so we can throw bananas and turtle shells at each other. I hope this cheered up chat from this dumpster fire of a video. Chromatic Cuttlefish says, what the actual fuck? Australia has only had Western settlements for 200 and some change years, and we have continuous records of the construction of the major cities, including the ones I live in, from absolutely nothing.
Some of these depictions show grand structures that either seem to be in the middle of nowhere or have no landscaping around them at all. Then there's these photos of cities like the Vatican, where the entire city is completely empty. Yeah, maybe they evacuate.
Old photographs had long exposure time, so unless people were standing in the exact same spot for a very long period of time, they wouldn't get picked up in the photograph.
Did the city just to get these pristine shots. If they went through all the trouble to evacuate the entire city, you think that they could have asked this guy to get out of the shot? Maybe it's a little bit awkward that he's just standing.
Again, he was probably standing still.
In there. Oh yeah, you got these vagrants hanging out by the statue over.
Again, I don't think they're vagrants. They're apparently in one place long enough to be captured in this image. Isn't it weird that he's both using... In these images, there are no people, and that's evidence. But in these other photos from the same location, there are people, and that's also suspicious. Do you see the problem? Do you see the problem? Doesn't understand how cameras work on the bingo card, yes. Steve with the Q says, pretty sure a major requirement for building that new lower floor would be matching the original style of the church. Yep, certainly could be. He knows what he's doing, yeah. This is bullshit. This is an intentional grift. He should be ashamed of himself.
Over here. Hey guys, get the out of the shot. You're ruining it. It almost looks like they're taking a photo of the Vatican to show off what it looks like right before they fill it with the next civilization. I want to ask yourself a question. If there's no people in the city...
But there are. You literally pointed out people in the photos, Greg. You literally pointed it out and then tried to use it for evidence, even though it's the opposite of what you were saying before.
Then who took the photo? These should be bustling cities. How do you build up these giant cities if there's no people in them? I mean, this seemed to have been a global event, right? Surely there'd be some sort of record of this happening. But instead, there are stories like this. The downtown of the city of Chattanooga is a floodplain, and apparently used to flood regularly in the 19th century. This apparently is not so much of an issue anymore, mainly because the street level of the entire downtown was raised. The problem with this is that nobody knows when this street raising was done, where it was done, or how.
I don't know.
What are you talking about? Just because they didn't write it down specifically doesn't mean it didn't happen. Like, what do you mean where it happened? The whole town? If you're saying they raised it everywhere in the town. When? I don't know. I don't know why they didn't save those, like, primary source documents, but that's okay, because you can look at it now and see, oh, look, the street's raised. Exo Jimbo, thanks for subscribing for 38 months. Terradona says, so he's doing a conspiracy speed run. Neat grift. And Dr. Gamble says, these cities used an exposure trick with cameras, Greg.
Exactly when this happened, because there are, to my knowledge, no firm records that would objectively show, hey, here's what we did and when we did it. But most people have said this was done sometime in the late 1880s.
But the mud flooders are not so sure about the 1880s theory.
The mud flood people are wackadoo conspiracy theorists without an ounce of evidence. All they have are suspicions. Suspicions don't do dog shit unless you actually have evidence to back them up, which they don't have, so they manufacture it. And you're now looking at their manufactured nonsense and promoting it because you want views, Greg.
A handful of photos have survived from the region that predate that time.
The fact that this is matched by another window on the other side and there's a door in the middle just tells you that this most likely was an entryway to a business.
This guy goes on to show that a retaining wall was built on the outside of the structure, theoretically so that they could add the fill on the other side. However, I also found an old photo of Chattanooga that shows retaining walls used to stop water from entering the building. So I don't really know what to make of this.
You can see some of the tops of arched window that you wouldn't put in at the street level now. Someone has said, well, could those have been coal bins? But you wouldn't have had 6 of them in the same building.
Chattanooga's not the only one in the world. Hell, Chattanooga...
Depends on the building, probably.
...is not the only one in the United States. It's basically the exact same story in Leavenworth.
Now, this is downtown Leavenworth, but below my feet, there's an underground mystery down here that not a lot of people know about or can tell us why it was created.
Oh, wow, you didn't even take the coffee cup out before you decided to do the report. Okay.
It is a city, perhaps long ago used for commerce. Windows, doors, and narrow paths lead you to the storefronts.
We know that it was pretty secretive, whatever it was that was down here, because not too many people know anything about it.
The underground world stretches several city blocks and possibly...
It might not be secretive, it might just be unimportant. I find that to be an interesting assumption on her part. Like, not everything that isn't known about is secretive. A lot of it's just it wasn't important enough to write down, and then people die, and you don't think about it. And it just no one knows about it. That's a lot of things in life. That doesn't make it secretive.
Beyond.
Could be booze runners. Could be, during Prohibition.
Some speculate this was created in the 1800s.
Even Kingston's City Hall is quite questionable. The whole basement is lined with archways that were buried under the soil until fairly recently.
Okay, if that's the case, again, they probably raised the level of the city for some reason. We know this happens.
You can see examples of these large arches in the west wing, which is the back of the structure, but also all the...
Oh, well, those are just, you mean the arches in the windows that we just saw? We just saw it.
Examples of these large arches in the west wing.
I don't understand. Is it supposed to be under this, or are you talking about the windows that we can see?
Which is the back of the...
Like this? What about it? They're windows, what?
the structure, but also all the way along the front of the structure. Almost all of these today have been converted into windows and doors, but the point is that they weren't designed to be covered. Yet in photos
What? Why do you think that?
from the 1860s, you can clearly see that the building is buried all the way up to the main floor. Market vendors are actually using the main floor as storefronts.
Okay.
You can't even touch those windows today, they're too high up. I never understood why they designed the building like this, because if there was any kind of flooding, it would just pour right into the dry moat. And in the winter, that's exactly what would happen. The dry moat would fill with ice and water, and there was no...
So they made a bad choice. They're capable of making bad choices for their building, you know that, right? Have you seen the Leaning Tower of Pisa? People make mistakes all the time on what they're building, how they're building it. That happens.
Nowhere for it to drain. And now that I've seen pictures of buildings getting excavated...
That's probably literally... Is that literally why they changed the height? Probably because there was that flooding issue? Interesting. Fenekagami says, Hannah, I know you hate this and we're all suffering right now, but I'd like to say that I find you covering this more enjoyable... more informative about how Greg is wrong, and we're here breaking down what he's doing. Yeah, I don't want to talk about other people covering.
I wonder if the basement of City Hall wasn't designed to be completely above the ground, like it was up on stilts, on display. The subject of aqueducts always comes up with the mudflood community. Greco-Romano style aqueducts seem to be a common feature. For example, there's a Romanesque aqueduct in Mexico. You want aqueducts? Kingston has one of those too.
Yeah, when did they date to? We were aware of aqueducts. What are you talking about?
Maybe.
Like, that definitely looks like it was later. Like, that doesn't look like it was indigenous. It looks like it was probably built by, like, colonists or imperialist types.
Technically, it's in Napanee, which is actually 30 minutes out.
Roman, not Greco-Roman. The Greeks didn't have arches. Boom, roasted.
Side.
You don't know your arches for shit, Greg.
Of Kingston. A small section of this bridge is made of stone, and though there has clearly been some restoration work done to it, especially around the base, which has more concrete, there doesn't seem to be any kind of record of any kind of stone bridge being built here. And
okay, Greg, the fact that you don't know when this was built and that specific record doesn't exist doesn't mean it doesn't happen. The vast majority of records about building projects throughout history, if they ever existed, are gone. Do you know that? Do you know that the vast majority of first-hand documentation of anything being built ever, most of it's gone? Because that's how history works, Greg. We don't have most documents from history. A lot of it is lost in the trash, in fires. Like, until very recently, things literally had to be stored as paper documents in files. And then if anything happened to them, well, there goes the record. It's not a conspiracy. It's just how life works.
there seems to be no record of this restoration. I know this is just probably a bridge. Another thing synonymous with the mud flood is star forts. There are some pretty...
Oh, they're gonna do the star forts thing. Tea with Goblin says, I've been to Segovia in Spain. The Romans built the aqueduct there 2,000 years ago. They didn't use cement. It's entirely held together by pressure enacted on the keystones. Turns out humans are actually really pretty smart engineers, even without modern technology.
Intricate designs, and though many still stand today, there are some drawings of older ones that will really blow your mind. Some are really small, like the ones in Kingston. We have a few, like Fort Frederick, Fort Henry, that's a bit more of a sizable star fort there, and there's a little bit left of the original French fort, Fort Frontenac. But at one time, the entire city of Kingston was walled off. The oldest depiction of City Hall that I can find, supposedly dating to 1850, shows a wall that we now call the Market Battery. And a small portion of this wall has been excavated, but you'll notice that the wall is actually sunken down.
Right, so you said there were flooding issues, right? So they raised the area to deal with the flooding issues. You literally said they had issues where there were flooding during parts of the year. So at some point they must have added earth to raise where everything was so they didn't have to deal with the flooding issues. You provided all the information in this video to debunk yourself, and then you didn't do it. Gnome Pickles says, not only can paper records get damaged, but paper, as an organic material, can degrade. There are a lot of books that are rotting that we have to work super hard to keep together. Hell, there are some books that we have to use x-rays to read because opening them will destroy them. Paper records can disappear super easily. Oh yeah.
And you have the...
Yeah, star forts were an effective fortification. It's not a conspiracy. We've covered star forts before.
Climb down.
They're interesting, but they're not magic. Like a lot of these things, it comes down to them being like, how did they make them so symmetrical? Because when you're in a war, if you don't, you die. So it's pretty important that you figure out how to do that. So they did.
Down into a
hydrate
hole to access it. But like I said, all of Kingston was walled off at one point. So that market battery would have been attached to the rest of the wall, right? Well, what did that market battery look like? Oh, that looks like a freaking star fort. Have you ever seen the Statue of Liberty? Don't let that cute toga and the shiny flame distract you, because Lady Liberty is holding a secret that's completely out in the open. Just look down, lower.
The base. Fenakagami says, sorry about earlier, Hannah. I should have known better anyway. I'm starting to think you're right about it being a grift. Thank you. And it's okay.
No, lower. Oh, no. No foot stuff. Lower. Yes, that. The Statue of Liberty is standing on top of a star fort. So there's...
No, that's not a fort. At least I don't think so. It was literally built to be the base for the statue. It's like a visitor center.
There's a theory that some of the really big buildings were...
Speaking of former Skeptic YouTubers, have you seen what the Non Sequitur show has been up to since they fell off? Oh no. What is it? Oh boy. Yikerinos. That's unfortunate.
Constructed by giants.
Giants on the bingo card.
But if they were built by giants, it would explain why they have such high vaulted ceilings.
The reason for the high vaulted ceilings are for a sense of grandness. Cathedrals, especially large cathedrals built by the church, were made in order to express power, right? A multitude of things. For, like a lot of cultural things, it's complicated and multifaceted. It shows devotion to God, in that they spent this much time, energy, labor hours getting this built, and often would take decades, if not centuries, for some, huge ones, or at least over a century. Several human lifetimes, let's say. It showed the power of the church, that they could, have so much power that they can get people to build this, in honor of God. Shows the power of God, beauty, all sorts of shit. It's not for giants, you idiot. Also acoustics. Yeah.
And such enormous, gigantic doorways. You know what? Let's save this one for another video. The art of map making is very serious. There are liberties taken. Yes, sometimes
he's gonna do the Tartaria thing.
Islands are misshapen, but map makers were meticulous.
About the areas they knew a lot about, but you're gonna talk about Tartaria as if it's a thing, even though there have been plenty of videos that debunk your entire thing you're about to say.
They wanted to be as accurate as humanly possible.
About the areas that mattered to them.
But then you find stuff like this. What is this?
Yes, in the past, people made mistakes just like they make mistakes now.
I've asked several Americans, hey, what did your teacher tell you about why California used to be depicted as an island? And they all replied, what? The world used...
Are your teachers incapable of looking things up? I've seen these. I imagine most teachers have seen these at one point or another. I remember this literally coming up in my history class when I was a kid. I don't remember the specific answer, but it's not a conspiracy.
Used to know California as an island. Again, map makers wouldn't...
Was this prior to the Lewis and Clark expedition?
Just screw around. People needed these maps to navigate. So why
Yeah, but they weren't navigating that area yet.
is California an island? Seriously, when
Because they were wrong? They had inaccurate information.
I was a kid, I was told that cartographers were
They assumed Baja California kept going north. Gnome Pickles says, looks like there's already a video game on these maps. Oh god.
Legislation intended to combat global warming, supposedly caused by human activity. Since
oh my god, I actually think I've seen this person before. I've seen this, yeah. Oh yeah.
To be talking about the or B if errors that occur suck. They frequently show inconsistencies from modern maps that are derived from errors that occur when you try and map an entire planet using a pencil. Many of the times, these errors are just cause for a good laugh, if nothing else. Like this map, which shows California as an island, which is wrong. Or this map, which shows the non-existent Appalachian Lake. How you accidentally find an entire lake that doesn't exist, I could not tell you. Or this map, which shows the Zambezi River as a circle, which is more akin to a theme park ride than an actual river. Many of the
any of this stuff was like... Map makers sometimes historically have put something that isn't really there in their maps. That way, if someone else makes a copy of their map and puts the fake thing, they can take them to court and be like, they couldn't have really done the work themselves, because that thing doesn't exist. I made it up, so they just copied my map. That's a thing. So, for smaller things, it could be that. The California thing, that's just a fuck-up.
Errors on these antique maps are about as credible as this, which I created when I was 10 years old. And it has such features as a town called Foot and a city called Yahoo. Bone Desert. The map key is pretty great. Not only is key spelled wrong, but the different types of states are old state, new state, war state, cool state, and stupid state. I also named the ocean the Wet Sea. I was a fucking weird kid. And now I'm a weird adult. Funny how that happens. New merch idea. This map on a wall poster. Drop a comment if you'd buy that. If you say you wouldn't buy it, I know you're a damn liar because this is awesome. And of course, more maps.
Alright, we get it. He's good though. Back to Greg.
Mistaken by the peninsula off of Mexico, and they just assumed it went on forever. But that doesn't explain these 4 islands that just happen to perfectly correlate with the largest mountains in that region. Oh, and
because there's 4 of them?
This is my favorite part. Where's San Francisco? The city by the bay. Oh, it's by the bay, but it's by the wrong bay. It's supposed to be at another bay. So how does that happen? What
mistakes?
Whatever it was that filled in the strait with Earth, did it cover up the old San Francisco? And since people just remembered the name San Francisco, they're like, yeah, we'll just call one of the new reset cities San Francisco, the city by the bay. And this got me wondering if this had to do with the Streets with No Name song. Oh, Streets with No Name. That's not the song. But I highly encourage you to go through some of these maps because you're going to find a lot of stuff that surprises you, like entire islands that are just not there anymore, like Friesland. There's Greenland, Iceland, and Friesland. Except Friesland doesn't exist anymore.
It never existed, Greg.
Is that a secret Illuminati island? I don't know, but I'm going to say yes. Subscribe to my channel. Not that I would ever agree with such a gross oversimplification, but the main group that the mudflood community seems to attribute these structures to is an old empire. The largest empire to ever touch the face of the earth. And you don't even know it exists. Okay, I want you guys to sit down for this part
about fucking
because this
Tartaria.
is true. Tartaria, also known as Tartar or Tartary, is depicted throughout history on several maps.
There were a group of people that were called the Tartars. They are an ethnic group that still exists, to my knowledge. The maps that show Tartaria as a large empire are not accurate. They were drawn by people who lived far away from the area, and all they vaguely knew was people called Tartars live here. So they just did the whole thing as Tartaria, like it's a big empire. It's not true, though. Mia Mulder did a whole, like, hour-long video about this, about Tartaria. I'm not gonna, like, just go over her points again, but if you want more information on that, check out her video. Mia Mulder.
Often colored in yellow, and it changes shape and size throughout time as it grew and shrank. Tartary at one time almost took up the entirety of Asia and even parts of Europe, the Middle East, and Northern Africa.
Yeah, that's just inaccurate. That's just literally inaccurate.
Didn't even know Tartaria existed until just a couple months ago.
Oh, and now you're an expert making a video. Holy shit, Greg. Wow, that's impressive.
Few people have told me that they knew about it, but that they were taught that Tartary is just the word you use to describe wild, uncharted lands. Barbary, Tartary. So Tartaria was supposedly mostly occupied by nomadic tribes, kind of like the Mongolians. Oh, shit. Tartaria is Genghis Khan's empire, isn't it?
No! No, it's not, Greg! You can't just say shit and then edit it into your video and be like, yep, that's good. That's good. Fuck you, you liar!
So the most baffling thing about Tartaria is how long it seemed to last. Well into the 17 and maybe into the 1800s. So the
No, Greg. It just takes time for maps to be accurate.
Problem with the theory of Tartary just being wild lands is that Tartary has their own flags, their own symbols, their own culture, and there's recorded lineages for their emperors. For uncharted wildlands,
it was uncharted for the people making the maps, but yes, a group of people lived there in a specific region. Not the whole region, but there was a group of people called Tartars. I'm sorry, it just makes me mad because I know this is all for naught, because I understand that Greg is doing this as a grift, which is more frustrating than if you're dealing with someone who really believes it, because at least there's a chance they can be convinced otherwise. He doesn't even believe this. I don't think he does. I think he just likes to grift.
They seem pretty well charted. They've marked down cities and towns and provinces, mountain ranges, and...
Who the fuck did you get this from, Greg? This literally looks like something someone made recently to make it look like an old map. Just pointing it out there. Hydrate.
Rivers and lakes and forests. If Tartaria was this big, then they must have had a lot of cultural influence throughout the entire world. And this is why the Mudflood community believes that every city around the world has the same neoclassical architecture. And Tartary wasn't the only world power, and it's hard to tell just how integrated they really were. See, this is what I'm talking about. There's just too much information for me to go through all in one video. I can't...
Yeah, bullshit takes up a lot of time.
Even seem to form a coherent line of thought here.
You haven't.
Always enjoyed these alternate reality conspiracy theories. It sort of reminds me of the electric universe model, which isn't really a conspiracy theory. These are the kinds of puzzles I give myself. And
the electric universe is a pseudo-scientific conspiracy theory.
Usually when I jump into a new conspiracy theory, it doesn't take that long for my brain to just start naturally rejecting what it's hearing because logic and reason take over. But sometimes when I start to try to debunk something, I can't grasp on anything, and I just keep falling deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. Sometimes that's because the information you're getting is fake, like the UFO phenomenon. And
what?
Unfortunately, for those that love the mudflood theory, there is a good deal of evidence that this is all manufactured as well. But even not knowing what the sources are for some of these things, some of the photos, even not knowing what the context is, it still leaves you with questions. It still leaves you wondering, what the f*** are these cursed images? The whole concept of ancient aliens actually comes from a string of common stories from cultures all around the world of these people that came and taught them culture and law and technology. And oddly, several of these cultures actually depict these gods very similarly.
Oh my god, no they don't. You're trying to find patterns, or I should say grifting, by taking patterns that other conspiracy theorists have found and you're presenting them as if they're legitimate because, again, you are a huckster.
As bearded men that carried little purses and had like a little doodad in their hand.
I don't think those are purses.
I don't know what that means. I'm betting whatever.
That kind of looks like a bucket to me, but you know, what do I know? Also, that's a fish guy, but whatever.
The purse and the doodad are the same thing as the orb and the scepter.
Are they? Are they though? Because I don't think they are. I think you just said those are two things, and then you said they're the same thing, and they're not.
I think that these gods were actually just survivors of Atlantis, and they brought
Atlantis wasn't real.
Atlantean technology and the knowledge that Atlantis had accumulated. But I'm having so much trouble trying to fit it all in right now. Like, I don't know if they were trying to rebuild Atlantis. For example, were the pyramids in Mexico already there before the Atlanteans showed back up? Or when they showed up, did they build a brand new style of architecture? Yeah, I'm just having trouble trying to make this whole conspiracy theory work. If the Tartarians, if they're the ones that...
It's almost like you're trying to find pieces to fit together into some sort of conspiracy theory instead of taking individual claims and trying to falsify them. You're theory crafting. This is called conspiratorial baking. This is literally just what conspiracy theorists do, or people trying to grift conspiracy theorists.
Built all the neoclassic, neo-Gothic style architecture, then who built the original Greek and Roman stuff? Around the time that
the fucking Greeks and Romans
that I started looking into the mud flood, the movie Aquaman came out. And that's when I started to wonder why Atlantis is always depicted as having Greco-Roman architecture. I mean, yeah.
Because it's what we perceive as old or ancient, and also the story of Atlantis fucking comes from Greece. It's a myth created in Greece.
It's dumb to assume that all the artists that have ever depicted Atlantis know that they're depicting Atlantis as Greco-Roman. So this is where we integrate the conspiracy theory that we have the historical timeline completely wrong. One book that has like a whole series of equations.
The flames have reached the side of my face. Flames? Flames on the side of my face?
That you can use to figure out what the astronomical layout was at the time that the structure was built or that the events happened, so that you can tell what time period that it was supposed to really happen in. Sir Isaac Newton was actually one of the proponents of this theory, and he
doesn't matter if that is true. You know this, Greg. Just because someone gets some other things right doesn't mean they're right about everything. Isaac Newton also believed in biblical numerology, but you're an atheist as far as I know, so don't you think that's bullshit? Welcome to the pain that is Greg. I just think he's a grifter. Gitara says, no, the step pyramids were built by the native Central and South Americans, Greg. I literally have a degree in this shit and even went to the site of, oh boy, Kukulkan, the step pyramid most people see in pictures, and this is painful. Fenagami says, when literally all evidence that you might be wrong is able to be explained away as the conspiracies faked this, your thought process is bullshit. Scientists explain disagreements as errors in data, different perspectives, or mythology. Despite that, centrists think these two sides are not doing the same thing. Logart says, literally Plato made it up as an interesting thought exercise about other nations and propaganda, the same guy that came up with Plato's cave about the same thing. I've said it before, people going around looking for the ancient city of Atlantis might as well be going around and looking for people chained to a cave wall. It's that fucking stupid. It's so dumb.
He believed events like those that happened in the Greco-Roman times happened in more than...
The Greco-Roman times, a period that spans thousands of years. Jesus Christ. Oh.
Medieval era. Some people, they like to add around 1,000 years. I only really have like 2 heroes in science, and that's Nikola Tesla and Sir Isaac Newton.
That's pathetic. That's pathetic. You know that just makes you sound like a douchebag. Are you kidding me? Hydrate.
There's a few different theories about how the history timeline got screwed up, and there's so many different places that they could have...
Do you notice how... this is a rhetorical tool, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed he's doing it a lot this whole video. He's shifting rhetorical focus. So each time he's contemporaneously talking about a topic, he'll be like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. So when he's talking about a topic, it's as though he's trying to be perceived as a neutral third-party observer with no preconceived notions. But then as soon as he gets onto the next topic, he talks as though the previous topic is a foregone conclusion. Like, he no longer has to couch it in the rhetoric of, I'm a centrist, I don't know. He's already talked about it in that way, so now he feels he can move on and just talk like it's a fact. Like, he no longer has anything to talk about that. Nope. I talked about it, now I'm talking about this. And because we said that other thing is true, even though that's not how I framed it at the time necessarily, now I'm gonna talk as though it is objectively true. It's a rhetorical sleight of hand. It tries to get you to not notice how much of his argument is building up from foundations of sand. He's pretending these foundations are more solid than he ever presented them as being, so that it feels like this whole thing has been building gradually, when in reality, it's all nonsense.
Added time. If you stretch time out, I guess it would be sort of like a stick of gum. It would break in a bunch of different places, but there wouldn't be one chunk.
Ah, yes. Theoretical physics as a metaphor.
Had the most stretch. That was a bad metaphor. But some time period...
You can't reason via metaphor. Metaphors are good for explaining things to people, Star Trek technobabble. But the actual discovery can't be done on the... You can't actually discover things that way through metaphor. Because metaphors exist in our heads as points of comparison. You can't just make shit up and use a metaphor to explain it. Because then all you have is the thing you made up. There's no original real observation that you're comparing to. You're just making a thing up and then saying, hypothetically, imagine there was a thing like this. In a metaphor, at least one of the things should be true, and then you're using the metaphor to describe the true thing. You're describing a metaphor and then saying, hypothetically, this metaphor could describe a thing that might exist. Okay, first you need to kind of evidence the thing that you think exists before we even get on the stage of you trying to use a metaphor to explain it.
Periods in their entirety are questionable. Like the Dark Ages, there's so little written history for the Dark Ages that it's
generally not good to be... It's not these days usually referred to as the Dark Ages. They're referred to as the Middle Ages, and it has to do with sort of Eurocentrism. But also, yeah, we're missing a lot of primary source documents. Literacy rates were not good during this period in Europe. We're aware of that. It's not a conspiracy. It was an understood phenomena that happened at the same time as a lot of other things were happening globally. For instance, Islam's Golden Age. Like, the idea that there's this global secret when many different periods in history are taking part contemporaneously. You know, the European Middle Ages, the Islamic Revolution, whatever's going on in Asia at the time. Sorry, I don't know much about Asian history. Fenekagami says, really no one else, Greg? The history of electricity alone is so fascinating and has loads of lessons on arrogance. Tesla's cool and all, but the biggest lesson from him is we don't live in a meritocracy. Weird how Tesla fans never learned that lesson.
Possible that it just never happened. And I mean, all of England's history around the time that Rome supposedly left is really questionable. That's why their history is replaced with the story of freaking King Arthur and the Round Table. That's fiction.
Sure.
That's not
right?
Real.
Okay. Like, mytho-historical accounts of things are common. Our modern study of history as it exists is a relatively new phenomenon, and I know there goes back to, like, you know, there were Roman historians and stuff, but I'm talking about academic history as it exists at the scale it exists today did not exist for most of human history. So yes, a lot of our histories, in particular ancient histories, are not necessarily built upon primary source documentation and interpretations of them, but based on our interpretations of different mytho-historical accounts, you know? Folklore, stuff like that. And sure, that stuff's not literally true necessarily, but that's how a lot of histories, mytho-historical cultural stuff passed down in societies. Sorry, my brain's already dying from this. Ugh.
But that's their history. There's a lot of competing theories to how this time was changed, but the most commonly used argument was that Pope Sylvester II and Emperor Ottoman III, glad I remembered that, they teamed up and basically added years to history so that they could say that they were the rulers at the turn of the millennium into the year 1000. One of the theories is that the entire
That sounds like bullshit that other people wouldn't have agreed to.
Roman Empire.
Yeah, he's doing the missing 1,000-year thing, I think.
Is a lie.
And the missing century.
That it's a giant cover-up to explain missing Tartaria history.
Nope.
Missing history for other empires and nations and kingdoms that are gone now. But that's a hard pill to swallow because there is so much written history and archaeological evidence that Rome existed. So
hot take, Rome existed.
Sorry that I can't really buy into that one, guys. What I can believe, though, is that Rome had this technology. So if Greece is in the Middle Ages, then how does it really...
Pope Sylvester II was perpetually distracted from his holy duties by the antics of Cardinal Tweedybird. Oh, I thought I saw a pope. I did see a pope.
Fit in. Where's that architecture come from? According to the stories of Plato, some guy told Socrates that his grandfather went to Egypt a long time ago, and a priest told him about an ancient Egyptian empire, and that's how we know about Atlantis.
No, it's a story he made up. If he was even an individual person.
The Egyptians supposedly came from an ancient island chain known as Hyperborea.
No!
These were the people that supposedly built the pyramids all across the world. This
Pope Sylvester II, formerly Gerbert of Aurillac, was also widely believed at the time to be a magician. Make of that what you will. Looney Tunes really was educational, more educational than Greg. Oh yeah.
The story's kind of a riddle. In fact, the entire oral tradition of verbally telling stories of history is kind of a game, and we've totally lost the context of how to translate it. The story also includes subtle subliminal hints that are supposed to subvert a listener's critical thinking skills. For example, the fact that Plato added 3 degrees of separation and then a great deal of time to the story. You'd think that that would make the story less believable, but subconsciously it actually makes it more believable. Believe it or not, hearing that the story came from a wise old man makes it seem more credible.
Does it to you? Oh god! Conspiracy theorist tells on themselves on the conspiracy card? Oh god! Holy shit, Greg. Oh, your brain is not good.
Because wise old men are credible, even though they haven't even demonstrated that this wise old man even exists. Historians believe that Plato concocted this story as a way to...
Concocted makes it sound so nefarious. Fucking wrote a story.
Inspire the Greeks, because it's about coming together and rising up against adversity, and about how arrogance...
I was gonna say it's about hubris. Marcus Drake says, for what it's worth, Herodotus claimed he visited Egypt and the priest had immaculate records of every pharaoh for something like 10,000 years, so maybe don't trust the Greeks. I don't know. Freyline says he keeps putting these ideas as being their conspiracy theorist ideas and then just taking the ideas as correct. He keeps distancing himself from the ideas and then taking them as fact. Oh yeah, it's rhetorical shifting. I mentioned this. It's so clear what he's doing. It's cynical.
Is crippling and will end up sinking you in the end. But it's hard to tell because the entire art form of oral history telling is just dead. So the story of Atlantis apparently continued on with a story of another empire that followed up afterwards and then was struck down by lightning. I wonder if that's supposed to be Babylon? And Babylon, or at least the Tower of Babel,
oh my god, are you gonna cite the fucking Bible, Greg?
is always depicted as being Greco-Roman.
Gee, I wonder why, Greg. I wonder why.
Maybe the Greeks were actually
Is that maybe what artists historically have thought of when they're thinking about ancient structures? So maybe they do it that way? Wow.
An old Babylonian technology. Anyways, I know this was a weird video. I didn't really like debunk anything. I like to be as
pathetic,
skeptical of this stuff as possible, but
no you don't. Shut up.
Really, I need to set this up for you, otherwise the whole rest of the series won't make any sense. Part 2 is going to be really good though. That's probably going to be my favorite video in the series. I'm going to be going into Nikola Tesla, his Tesla Tower technology, what he was trying to do with that. And not that I want to say I'm smarter than Tesla or anything, but I figured out what he was doing wrong. The technology that Tesla was using to draw atmospheric energy out of the sky, which is a real thing. I'm going to be going into all the science of that. I'm going to demonstrate how Tesla's design was kind of backwards. He had this idea.
This is going to be so fucking stupid.
Idea
we're not doing more Greg today. This is the only Greg thing we're doing today.
Of providing free energy to the entire planet. But the main thing that we need to see is if
Greg will probably be his own special streams because holy shit, this has taken the majority of Tinfoil Tuesday.
Tesla's concept of free energy could work within the domed buildings. Yeah.
Speaking of popes, Hannah, have you heard supposedly the Pope said trans kids and adults can be baptized? I only vaguely know about this. My thoughts? Is it true or just bait and switch? I vaguely heard about it. I think it's true, but a lot of Catholics are mad about it. As you would imagine.
Yeah, you could fit a Tesla tower.
Personally, I wouldn't recommend being Catholic if you're trans, but yeah. Do you?
Or inside of one of these domed buildings, but is that something that they actually did? Was this free energy a real thing? If there's
free energy isn't a real thing. You literally said one of your favorite scientists and personal heroes is Isaac Newton, who literally wrote the laws of thermodynamics.
One thing that I might accidentally convince you of in this series, it'll be the free energy thing. Because even I'm almost convinced, this close to being convinced that our ancestors had free energy.
Oh my god. Oh my god, Greg. What are you doing?
And we can't see it. Well, I can. Because I'm a genius. I'm gonna wake you idiots up.
Idiot says he's a genius on the bingo card.
2.
Literally.
Everyone will see what I see. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you guys react to this series. I hope you have fun with each other, debating in the comments section. Remember, guys, this is just for fun. And next time...
I'm sorry. You're right. He did the laws of motion. That's on me. I'll take the L.
I'm gonna teach you guys...
thermodynamics for later.
...how to build a free energy device.
Chitara says, Greg should cite the Book of Paul instead. Paul's high priestess looked up upon the conspiracy theorist after their rambling had finished and said unto them, source please, Book of Paul, Conspiracy 4:1.
Is better than Tesla.
Fuck, I hate Greg. This is sad. Look at the top comment he pinned. Historians are just parrots. So ridiculous. What a fucking grifter. Alright, let's move on. Let's look at the bingo card real quick. Jesus Christ. Doesn't understand how cameras work. Giants. to say conspiracy theorist tells on himself for how obvious this is a grift, in my opinion. We have giants, geese. Is that it? That might actually be it. Spongy Lord, thanks for 29 months, says, whoa, 29 months. Dude, right on. Yeah, idiot thinks he's a genius. There was thinly veiled anti-Semitism, it's on there. I don't know if we had overt. We had thinly veiled. Oh, I pulled up a lot of long things today. I didn't realize how long the Greg thing was gonna take. This might be funny. They Live, the guy that does the, you know, he puts lots of clips of They Live in his stuff. You know that video we watched last week of the guy pranking the flat earthers? This guy now thinks that this flat earther is controlled opposition because he was on this video. So let's check it out.
David Weiss, deep inside the rabbit hole, once again, another hit piece on flat earth. No different, as you see here, with this interview, as we all seen, with Logan Paul, and of course this so-called documentary, Flat Earth to the Edge and Back. Nothing more than a pantomime, nothing more than, again, a hit piece on Flat Earth with Logan Paul and his nearly 24 million subscribers. Just like what happened with Professor Dave. Another pantomime, as you see here in this video.
Yeah, that has 4 million views. The Professor Dave guy talked with a Flat Earther, and it was hilarious, because he just basically mocked the Flat Earther the whole time. And I'm not going to say it was probably productive, but it was funny and a little cathartic. Fenekagami says, a clarification is that being trans is still considered a sin, be in the same way that adultery is. The key difference is now, the Pope is saying that while trans people are sinners, they're to be loved and forgiven like all of us can, and confession would absolve them. While transphobic, this is a big step forward as it removes the kick your kid out because they're trans justification that Catholic parents have used. Ah, I see.
4.2 million views. David Weiss doing his best to make Flat Earth look silly. And unfortunately...
No, he is really trying. Flat Earthers are just really bad at this. Flat Earth on the bingo card, of course.
This is what's happening. The controlled
opposition on the bingo card.
David Weiss is. And before showing the hit piece with this one individual, as you see here, Tyler Oliveira, with 4.33 million subscribers, and of course the 33. This individual, just 23 years old, born in the year 2000, talking to David Weiss. Take a look here at the hit piece on his channel, with over 600,000 views in just 4 days. And just like previously with David Weiss, doing his best, again, to make Flat Earth look stupid, make it look silly.
He has an easy job, then.
Take a look at this very short clip with Logan Paul. Definitely scripted to be played out this way to the millions and millions of followers that Logan Paul has.
We don't even have a real picture of the globe. So I don't have a picture of my intestines, but I know they exist.
So you saw that. David Weiss, no response. Quiet. Like he was owned.
I mean, that could certainly be an editing thing. And you all obviously know I think Flat Earthers are wrong. I think David here, who we've covered before, is a douchebag and an idiot. But it is a Logan Paul video. So it wouldn't surprise me if David had a different reaction, but they just inserted a part of footage where they just had him looking neutrally to make it look as though he had no answer for this. Again, either way he's wrong, but I do want to point out the way this is edited, that is a potentiality, and I think it would be dishonest of me not to point that out.
And make no mistake about it, this was by intent. This was scripted 100%. And that gets back to this individual again, Tyler Oliveira with more than 4 million subscribers, and David Weiss pushing extra land beyond the ice wall with zero evidence. All he has is a cartoon model.
I mean, you have no evidence for flat Earth in general, so.
And this is what he's presenting as the so-called flat earther. Basically, I have the new name for these so-called flat earthers. They're fake earthers. They don't care if we live on a globe or if we live on a flat earth. They're in it for the money.
I appreciate all the sectarian conflict within conspiracies these days. It's entertaining seeing them fight each other from time to time instead of just reality.
And that's what exactly David Weiss is all about. He's about the money. And now let's take a look at Tyler.
It's not doing very good if that's what he's in this for. I don't think his channel has that many viewers.
Oliveira's hit,
relatively speaking,
piece on Flat Earth, which of course David Weiss is a part of. It's a carbon copy of what Logan Paul did, posing as a flat earther, then just mocks the flat earth. And that's exactly what you see here with, again, Tyler Oliveira doing the same thing, presenting himself as a flat earther just to mock the flat earth. Let's take a look.
They were talking about more land beyond Antarctica. What about this?
Whoa.
This makes sense. What if we lived here? What if this is where we lived? Right there. These are other ponds with their own suns. He went from Middle America over what they call Antarctica and then found another continent out here.
And that would destroy our whole worldview of reality.
Now, what if there's other civilizations here? What if these are where the controllers of the world live? Okay? What if...
I'm getting chills right now.
Because the reality, your soul is going, yes, listen, right?
Is it? Conspiracy theorist believes the evidence is self-evident on the bingo card and vibes-based conspiracy.
Get rid of your program mind.
Unbelievable. Pushing something he cannot prove once again.
Reminder, the guy talking and criticizing him is a conspiracy theorist we cover regularly who is a flat earther. He just disagrees with this specific version of flat Earth.
Now, while David Weiss talks about the other worlds beyond the ice wall, take a listen to this complete debacle. While David Weiss is trying to push his app.
I forgot about his app.
On James English, as you see here, based in Scotland, with over...
They can't even agree in what flat Earth model is the real one? Yeah.
Over 500,000 followers. Take a listen to this complete embarrassment by David Weiss. He doesn't even know where Scotland is. What a joke.
Because this is a topic that affects everybody. Where's Scotland? Here, I'll do it. I can go this way. Scotland. Yeah. It's
where do you...
Like this, Scotland.
There's no way he doesn't actually know where Scotland is, right? My neck's better today than it was last night, that's for sure.
Is it in...
It's in the UK.
Oh, it's in the UK. I'm sorry.
It's to the north of Britain, sir.
Wow.
There was a whole... You know, there were some conflicts surrounding... Okay, whatever.
What a complete joke this guy is. The same guy telling people there's other lands beyond the ice wall. He doesn't even know where Scotland is. What a complete embarrassment. What a complete joke he is to Flat Earth. Now take a look at Tyler Oliveira once again, as you see here with Karen B. Well, I put it up before. Just take a look here. During a so-called Flat Earth meetup doing the Masonic hand signs. As you see here wearing the Masonic fez with this individual.
Is that not a Shriner's fez? I guess I thought that was a Shriner's fez.
Karen B, while wearing a Masonic hat, doing the 666 sign with the all-seeing eye. As you see here, Mark Sargent as well. And you see the Masonic hat as well. So out of all the places there are throughout the United States, all the facilities, all the convention halls, you decide to have a Flat Earth meetup in a Masonic temple, a Shriner's temple.
Yeah, those are usually relatively cheap places to get space rented.
Does that make sense? For anybody that's awake, makes absolutely no sense. How people can't see through this is beyond me if you're involved with the truth. And here's Mark Sargent once again. And he's telling you in plain sight who he is working for. And what do you see here? The CIA. What does this remind you of? Another goofball, fake flat earther, Rob Skiba, who I call Skeebs. And again, they're all doing the same thing, mocking real flat earthers. This is not funny whatsoever. If you're a real flat earther, a real truth.
Pretty funny.
You wouldn't be doing this. And again, I have to really emphasize,
Shriners are a subgroup of Masons. Gotcha.
Mark Sargent with the CIA on the shirt, all in plain sight. Now let's get back to once again with Tyler Oliveira in his interaction. Again, this is a carbon copy of what took place, as you see with Logan Paul. No different. Pretending to be a flat earther, just a so-called quote troll the flat earthers, when this is 100% scripted. Let's get right to it.
I feel like he just spent the last 6 minutes saying virtually nothing. He could have gotten that all condensed down to, this guy made a YouTube video a lot like Logan Paul where he pretended to be a flat earther and came in and actually mocked everyone. I think that David and this other guy, I think that they're in on it, and this is ridiculous. But instead, he spent 6 minutes rambling? Jesus Christ.
Be here around all my flat earth brethren and sisters right now, so thank you. Secondly, what I wanted to ask was, I have a girlfriend. She's a glober. How can I get my girlfriend to see the light?
It really depends on the circumstances.
That's interesting, Mr. Whiskers. I can see that.
Master's degree in anything?
No.
Okay, just you have a bachelor's degree.
The problem is there are real-world conspiracies, and I don't mean in the tinfoil way. I mean, like, you know, there is a crime called conspiracy. So.
Yes. He's in physical science.
No.
She's got a shot. Did she have any family members that used to work in aerospace?
Her grandfather's a NASA scientist.
And how old are you?
I'm 23.
Oh, plenty of time. There's so many people out there.
Let me ask you this. Is being a part of this community worth everything? All my friends hate me. My family thinks I'm a fool. My relationship's struggling.
Welcome to the club.
Why do they want us to be deceived?
Well, you are new. It's not what they stand to gain, it's what they stand to lose.
Oh, no, I want a deeper answer. Why? Why?
Okay.
Why are we the select few? What's so special about us?
So there's always going to be people that go against the grain. The critical thinking, when we spread it, it affects other people. And yeah, it doesn't work on everybody. Probably like your girlfriend. Well, if she ever brings up the Dunning-Kruger effect, then, you know, just...
Last what she said I was a victim of. I was like...
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Just gaslighting me? Yeah, anyways, thank you.
Now let's take a look as Tyler Oliveira heads outside and starts talking to some of these fake flat earthers. This guy here.
Yeah, divorce in QAnon and flat earth communities is common, unfortunately. Either as a result of them going down the rabbit hole, their partner, you know, becomes, you know, distant and doesn't like who their partners become, so they get divorced. Or sometimes the divorce itself is an instigating factor into joining communities like this. A lot of people join conspiratorial groups, cults, whatever, fringe political groups, because they feel alone, and these groups give a sense of community, support, acceptance. They make them feel better about themselves by being part of something they perceive as being bigger than themselves. So yeah, divorce, child custody are themes that you see pretty often in these communities.
Of course, with the white coat, like the lab coat, give me a break. These are all just part of the act. Let's get right to it.
Fooling you to follow the earth. If you're already free from gravity and the earth is going, why are you following the earth? What other force
Gravity.
propels you to follow the earth? You're out in space and you're just hanging there by yourself, and earth is going through the galaxy at 666 miles an hour. If you're already free, you came here for one reason. What was that?
Another actor here. Again, this is just a pantomime.
It's so funny because literally these are other flat earthers who are mad at the guy for making fun of them, but he thinks they're in on some sort of psyop?
All part.
Psyop on the bingo card? No, we are no. We did controlled opposition. It's just controlled opposition. Sorry.
Part of the theater that has taken place. Make no mistake about it.
Did not learn nothing. I'm learning. What are you talking about? Did you learn anything? Wait, what if I didn't? That means that you're here for an agenda. Answer my question. Listen, bro, concentrate. Yeah.
As if no one can listen to you without immediately being converted into your worldview. It's weirdly arrogant.
Okay, sorry. Distracted, yeah.
Just concentrate, all right? What other force is pulling you to follow the Earth?
Between the actual attractive force between the molecules.
Yeah, but how did you measure it?
I don't have to measure it.
but
Neither do I have to.
I don't have to measure it.
I don't have the time or decades to understand every field of science, right? We're relying on some level of expertise, to be honest. Do you trust someone else who did the test for you?
Absolutely.
Why would you
World
do that?
records. Because I know people that have personally done it.
Doesn't that sound like just a foundation of science, believing scientists who have done the same experiment?
The more questions I ask,
And Witsit doesn't get it, of course, part of the act, as usual.
the less the flat Earth made sense. Tyler, I believe that you are actually looking for the truth.
I am. It's
I
hard to
know.
understand.
Yeah, David Weiss really believes Tyler's looking for the truth. Again, David Weiss, part of the act. What a complete joke he is. And here's the part where Tyler Oliveira, of course, comes out just like Logan Paul and basically admits he's just trolling. Let's get right to it.
I got a question. Okay, so I just want to say great presentation, by the way. And secondly, I came here initially as a flat earther, but after talking to all of you, more particularly the ginger, who said I looked like if Date was a person, I want to give him a shout out. I've come to conclude that the Earth is a sphere. I will give anyone $1,000 right now outside if you can prove me wrong. Yeah. $1,000. $1,000. I'll walk home on the flat Earth. You're trolling. I'm not trolling.
What are you doing here? What the hell are you doing here? There's a mountain of evidence.
Yeah, let's hear it.
If you don't see it, you're blind. Not everybody's got the mental capacity to really see it.
So wait, hold on. You were a flat earther, but now you're not? That doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting statement. That doesn't make any sense. You were already right. If you changed your mind, that means that I might not be right, and that's impossible. What are you doing? I know the guy was never really a flat earther in the first place, but it's just funny listening to the logic there.
Can't prove a closed mind. I was gonna let you pass, but that was kind of a crazy move you did in there to get some good footage in your video. Are you gonna end with where they can find more information, or are you gonna leave that?
All right, tell the viewers.
If you want more information, go to flatearthdave.com. Don't believe anything that you heard in this video from him or from me or from anybody else. Go verify it yourself.
And
do your own research.
There you go. Another example of David Weiss just looking for an avenue to push his app. Again, a fake earther, not a flat earther.
He's a flat earther. He just also wants to make money off an app. They're not mutually exclusive.
He doesn't care. As long as you buy his app, doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on.
Do you have to buy the app, or is it free?
He's a happy camper, and that's what it all comes down to. People need to understand the controlling both sides of the coin when it comes to the globe versus flat earth debate. The flat earth is the truth, but there's the controlled op aspect that I just demonstrated.
David, they ever stop and think about exactly when these people walk up to you? I'm sure you get all different types of people, but really when they're looking you in the eyes, they're saying, honestly, thanks for what you do. Like, isn't that the most amazing feeling?
I want to say it's not the reason I do it. Doing this selfishly for me.
That didn't feel cherry picked. They Live, using clips from They Live on the bingo card. All right, what's next?
Welcome to the Patreon.
I think it's an app to get in touch with other flat earthers. Like, not quite a dating app, though you might be able to find someone through it. I think it's just finding other flat earthers and scheduling flat earth meetups. At least that's what I think.
Astrologer forecast. Here we're going to follow the sun, the 5 visible...
This guy is an astrologer, but also he's a MAGA guy, which is an interesting combination.
Planets, and sometimes the 3 outer planets, as they move through the actual constellations in the sky. I'll try to make some connections with mythology, alchemy, personal development, and maybe sometimes some current events, and then you can decide for yourself whether or not those lights up there have any influence on our lives down here. This is going to be the forecast for November 2023. My name's Jerry D, and I'm going to be your guide. Opposite side of the sky, you'll see the sun setting as it moves a little closer to the western horizon over the course of the month. And then on the opposite side of the sky, you'll see Taurus and Orion beginning to rise. Now, I know Orion isn't a zodiacal constellation, but I like to point it out because it's really easy to find, and the 3 stars that make up Orion's belt point directly at the brightest star in Taurus, Aldebaran. And of course, if you can find Taurus, right now you're going to see Jupiter shining brightly off to the right, sitting under the constellation of Aries. So across the night sky during the month of November, you should be able to see Sagittarius out in the west at the beginning of the month. As you can see in this picture I took on Sunday, November 7th, 2 years ago, 2021. That was at 7:15 p.m. This was the first day back on normal time that year, meaning we set our clocks back an hour the night before. And if I compare this photo to my astrological software dialing up that same date at the same time, you can see it's a perfect match, with Sagittarius setting, the Moon and Venus just about to go under the horizon, and then Capricorn and Aquarius trailing across the south sky.
Jesus Christ, there's a lot of work that goes into this bullshit, isn't there?
And you'll notice,
if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd pick a lazier conspiracy.
In this picture how bright the 3 planets are compared to the surrounding stars. Even Saturn, which is supposedly the furthest away planet we can see with our naked eyes, is significantly brighter than any of the stars around it. And since this picture was taken 2 years ago, back then you could see that Saturn was still in Capricorn. When you find it now, you'll see that it's in Aquarius, where it's been since February this year. And this gives you a little bit of an idea about how slowly Saturn makes its way around the wheel of time. By the end of the month, you won't be able to see Sagittarius anymore because it's catching up to the sun over that western horizon.
Oh, is he going to talk about
You may have
Trump?
noticed
Because I don't care about just his other woo-woo.
forward, the evening constellations will be getting a little bit higher and higher as we move into winter, while the early morning constellations will be getting lower and lower. And if you do get up early in the morning, at least a couple hours before the east, you should the constellation of Libra short
I'm just going to see if he talks about
project
Trump.
or reach a goal. Astrology will tell you Libra are
In other videos he has, but I don't know if he doesn't.
the sun enters the constellation. So Mercury starts out moving through Libra with Mars and the sun in early November, and it'll move into feminine archetype. Mars moved into Libra on October 30th, and it'll cross paths with the sun at 1 o'clock a.m. on November 18th. It should be visible again in the morning before sunrise sometime around Christmas. For now, the god of war will continue to move invisibly through Libra, the realm of law and justice, for almost the entire month of November, crossing into Scorpio on November 26th. This gets me thinking about the Nuremberg trials, war crimes, MK Ultra, biological warfare through toxins and injections, and it makes me wonder if we might see some military tribunals here in the not so
Oh my god, comparison of public health measures to genocide.
Distant future.
On the bingo card.
Jupiter is still in Aries and Donald Trump is still the president.
To be clear, this is a video from like 4 days ago. This isn't an old video, just for the record.
Jupiter will be retrograde all month, moving back toward the beginning of the realm of new beginnings, along with the invisible symbol of revolutionary change.
You promised the moon, but I preferred
Uranus. Jupiter will be retrograde until the end of the year, and Uranus will resume its forward movement at the end of January. Jupiter will then cross paths with Uranus in April as the commander-in-chief gets ready to be the star witness in a televised trial for all the world to see. Interestingly, as we move into May of 2024, Jupiter won't be visible in the sky anymore. It'll reappear then over the eastern horizon before sunrise in June in front of the constellation of Taurus. Mars, Uranus, and Jupiter will all be moving through Taurus in July and August of 2024, and to me this seems symbolic of a great revolutionary battle led by a charismatic leader.
Picture unrelated. Really wants a civil war on the bingo card. King Trump.
So let's see what happens as things unfold. For now, if you want to see Jupiter, you could look to the east after sunset, or get up very early and then look to the west. It'll be the brightest light in the sky. So Saturn is still loitering in Aquarius, and the reflection here on planet Earth is the deep state criminal syndicate trapped in the...
Oh god, what? Oh no, it's going wildly back and forth between the right-wing fascist bullshit and the woo-woo astrology bullshit, and it's just like, I'm getting whiplash. I associate astrology with like left-wing granola, like hippie woo-woo, not so much the fascist stuff, so it's interesting.
So Saturn is still loitering in Aquarius, and the reflection here on planet Earth is the deep state criminal syndicate trapped in the realm of dissemination of information until February of 2025, when it can be cast out into the void, symbolized by Pisces, to be dissolved and purified. The Joe Biden stand-in continues to mumble nonsense through his malfunctioning mask.
Years ago, I asked
Oh my god, he thinks he's an actor!
the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate
Yeah, we got do your own research.
to write something for him, and he said he wrote a line that
Is Mr. Blast going to win a bingo? That would be
I
amazing.
think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait later.
And damning information continues to be made public about the Biden crime family's money laundering business.
Biden, Clinton's, Obama's on the bingo card.
Over the course of the next year, I think we might actually see all three movies playing at once. And I think people...
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.
People's minds might be a little bit blown. Aquarius is a symbol of revelation, and it certainly feels like we're witnessing a revelation of biblical proportions.
Do I know who Walter Mercado is? I do not.
Here on planet Earth. Not only is Saturn passing through Aquarius, as it does every 30 years or so, but the precession of the equinoxes is drawing the sun closer to the edge of Pisces as we get ready to enter the age of Aquarius.
I've heard about that.
The
in a song.
Equinox.
By the way, chat, in case you're curious, Pisces. I'm a fucking Pisces.
Position of the sun has been progressing 1 degree every
Yes, the Bible does not like astrology.
72 years backward through the constellation of Pisces for right about 2,200 years, according to my calculations. And that puts it right before the birth of Christ. Ever wonder why the fish is such a prominent Christian symbol? We've probably still got
I don't know your sign off the top of my head. I know exactly when your birth date is, but I don't know all the different signs and when they start and stop other than mine.
About another 500 years to go before the sun technically enters the constellation of Aquarius at the vernal equinox. But as you can see here, in 2024, the sun is already right under that home plate-shaped asterism that is the western extent of Pisces. And I'd say there's at least a 3 to 4 degree gap on either side of the border between Pisces and Aquarius. So we are right on the precipice. I think we're living through the beginning of one of the greatest times in the history of the human race. And I do think the best is yet to come. So that's it for this Sidereal Astrology forecast. I hope you found this information uplifting and entertaining. If you like this video and you want to see more, please give me a rumble, hit like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and don't forget to share with your friends. As always, I hope you're able to get outside this month, look up to the sky, and verify for yourself where those stars actually are. My name's Jerry D, and I'll see you next month.
What a weird guy. Interesting, but weird. Recording in car on the bingo card.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. CC here, Chris from New York, Westchester County. It's 11/10/23.
Bingo! Mr. Blast has
Friday.
bingo! Let me see your card. That's exciting. I'm excited. I hope you won. Fenekagami says, on the topic of civil war, the King Trump thing is a perfect example of how dumb the centrist a person's politics is no reason to be friends with them. Reality is most don't even believe it. The well-meaning ones would be friends with a literal Nazi, but seriously, wouldn't be friends with a literal Nazi, rather. But seriously, you live in America and you think monarchy would be a good idea and you don't think that reflects on you fundamentally? What about being pro-genocide? Yeah, it's all fucked.
I'd like to give you something to think about
Let's
on a
see.
Friday, just in case if I'm
Doesn't
unable to
understand.
put a video out for the weekend.
You did it! You did it, Mr. Blast. Congratulations. I will write your name down, though I think I will remember it.
Things I want to just review.
That's cool.
I'm gonna get right into
Mabret, thank you for 22 months.
science times bullshit.
Alright, sorry, I gotta go back. I wasn't listening to anything Chris said, because I was checking the bingo card and stuff.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be.
Hi, Chris.
CC here, Chris from New York, Westchester County. It's 11/10/23. It's a Friday. I like to give you something to think about on a Friday, just in case if I'm unable to put a video out for the weekend. A couple of things I want to just review here. I'm going to get right into science times bullshit.
Science times bullshit.
Science times too. All right, anyway.
Oh, this is going well so far. Gnome Pickle says we must be careful now that 2 blasts have won. If Broha wins the perfect trifecta and the prophecy will be complete. He won, didn't he? I thought Broha had won. Yeah, Broha won at some point. So that's it. It's already done. The prophecy's fulfilled. Kiss your butts goodbye. Hydrate.
Voyager 2? Are you fucking kidding me, guys? I mean, this is to reinforce space.
What?
That they want you to still think it exists up there. So they gotta put shit out, you know, nonsense. Like Voyager still being out there after 50 years, 45.
Where would it go? It's in space. That's where it is.
5 years or however lie they made up 45 years ago or 50 years ago or a half a century ago, whatever it may be, it doesn't
50 years is the same as a half century, Chris.
Make a difference. It's all bullshit.
Save it for someone who needs it. Okay. I can do that.
Couple things
I'll get paid tomorrow, I think, so probably tomorrow I'll gift it.
I do have a problem with, if Voyager did still exist.
It does.
Is, first off, there's a fuel problem, okay? That would be...
It's in space, Chris. Once it gets going, it just keeps going. You could push it, literally, and it would just keep going forever unless it ran into something.
Number one. The fuel shelf life, is approximately, I don't know, on a car, maybe about a year you get out of it.
Do you think that a space probe literally designed to go off and just float through space for indeterminate amounts of time was designed to the same specifications as a car?
Maybe a year and a half at best. Jet fuel, about the same.
It's a radiothermal generator. That makes sense.
Even if you can go 5 years, I would be quite impressed. But this is magic liquid from NASA. That's right. Their fuel, their liquid, lasts hundreds of years.
Wow, we didn't even look this up.
They even said that Voyager 2 could outlast the human civilization, that it could just spend millions of years drifting.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing destroys it, yeah.
Around the fucking universe. You fucking idiots, you gotta wake the fuck up, because bull earthers believe in that bullshit. And that's all it is. Bullshit. You know, anybody in their right mind would say, hey, wait, and you know, and I was reading up about it too. Apparently back when they launched this, you know, back in the 60s, late 50s, right around the time, you know, we figured out that the earth is flat and we're covered with a dome and...
Citation! We
have a purpose here. So they had to come up with space and all that, NASA.
Famously, no one talked about or knew about outer space until 1950. Logard says, it will if some heavy metal rockets from the dead don't use it as target practice.
Nonsense.
Heavy metal rockers from the dead don't use it as target practice. Is that a heavy metal reference?
But my problem is the trajectory and the mathematics of using all of the planets out there as slingshots, because they want to conserve fuel, of course. You know, because once they're out in deep space, which I think it is supposedly out in deep space, fake space. Is that where it is? I think it's past beyond the solar system. And forget about that we're, you know, the solar system's like moving like 66,000 miles per hour, you know. But
motion is relative, so that's not really relevant.
That would have been gone if it did exist. And the universe, I mean...
It took off from the same position, so it had the same inertia, and it started from the same inertial reference frame.
and the galaxy moving at hundreds and hundreds of thousands miles per hour. You guys, you're lost. You're lost. But okay, back to what I was saying. So it's using the planets to slingshot off, and that's how it managed to get out there now. I can't even keep a straight face and say it. I really can't. How scientists could actually sit down and say this and tell people that this is true is beyond me. While we're on the subject of planets, Van Allen discovered a belt, the Van Allen belt. It's a
Cloud Wizard says, I believe that it's past Pluto, but it won't get through the Oort cloud for another 10,000 years. Ooh.
Poisonous belt, and apparently...
A poisonous belt? It's a belt of radiation. What?
It's radiation, guys.
Yes?
I think my belief on it was before they figured out that the Earth was flat and we're covered with a dome, space doesn't exist. I think, Van Allen came out. Well, let me see. No, Van Allen must have come out with it before we did the launch. That we supposedly landed on a fake moon somewhere.
No, we landed on the real moon. Our moon, Luna.
In Arizona. Pick your choice. I don't know.
Okay, I picked the moon. They landed on the moon.
Some remote area, studio somewhere, shall we say. I think once they figured out that there's no space, Van Allen came out and said, okay, why don't we just invent the belt?
This Van Allen guy, he was the coffee boy, really.
Poisonous belt, radiation belt, something that we can never get through. But then, wait a minute, the Americans, the USA, that's right, us, said we can go into space. Watch us. So
the rates of cancer for astronauts is statistically higher than that of the general public if you're worrying about the radiation thing or thinking about the radiation thing. Going into space does subject you to more radiation than you would on Earth. It's not healthy for you.
All the technology we had back then managed to get us into space. Where was I going with this? Oh, okay. No, forget about that. So back to the Van Allen belt. Now, my problem is, what about the other planets? Do the other planets have a Van Allen belt? Well, sure.
Isn't the Van Allen... Wait, let me double check something. I don't want to sound stupid. Van Allen belt. Yeah, it's the result of our magnetic core, right? Other planets that don't have a rotating magnetic core wouldn't have one. Right? Am I wrong? Let's take a look. The belts are in the inner regions of Earth's magnetic field. They trap energy, electrons, and protons. Other nuclei, such as alpha particles, are less prevalent. Most of the particles from the belt are thought to come from solar wind, while others arrive as cosmic rays. Got you. So it's stuff that's, like, getting trapped up in Earth's magnetic field. Okay. Okay. I got you. I got you. Okay.
Truly they must, because the radiation is coming from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Chris, you know that they put shielding on rockets, right? Like, it's still not perfect, like I said. Rates of cancer are higher if you're an astronaut. But, like, there is shielding. They don't just not consider it.
So, let me get this straight. All the probes and everything we've been launching off into space to these fake planets somewhere and sending and beaming back images of all sorts of shit are going through the Van Allen belt back and forth, back and forth.
Again, if there's any potential damage, I'd imagine they're shielded for that. And a lot of satellites don't have long-term use anyway. Most satellites are like, oh, this satellite has a lifetime of like 5 to 10 years, and then it usually gets deorbited or just left up there, which is its own problem, and then they launch another one. Like, this is one of the big issues with these Starlink satellites, is that they have like even for satellites, a really short lifespan. I think it's like 2 or 3 years for a Starlink satellite.
No problem at all whatsoever.
But I'd imagine they're shielded regardless to extend their longevity.
None. Okay. But I haven't heard anybody else tell me that are there any Van Allen belts on any other planets out there? Are we the only one?
Again, you could look this up.
Well, we seem to be the only one with a moon that's locked and stationary.
It's called tidal locking, and we're not the only ones with that, no.
Oh yeah, sure, it moves, but you only see one face. The only one around, right?
I don't even think it's the only moon in our solar system that's tidal, or that's locked in that way. Whatever the fuck it's called.
It's such bullshit. It really is. Let's talk about lockdown. You remember that?
Oh,
yeah, that was
God.
when most of the children here, and I should say adults, but I call them children sometimes. Sorry.
Condescension. That always comes real smooth out of his mouth, despite not earning it at all. Fun.
Were curled up in a little ball in their couch, and watching reruns. I Love Lucy, Honeymooners, Twilight Zone.
How old are you?
The A-Team.
Holy shit. Does he think that's what the average person watches? Don't get me wrong, I like I Love Lucy, haven't seen The Honeymooners, love The Twilight Zone. I don't think that's what most people were watching, though, no.
Pick a choice.
Also, reruns, Jesus Christ. Like I'm watching linear TV, good lord.
Now, there's one thing I don't understand. I remember being told that if you touch something, it survives on the surface for more than 5 days.
Chris, that's going to depend entirely on the microorganism you're talking about. Different ones have different abilities to exist on different surfaces. Some can't exist on surfaces at all for very long. COVID, for instance, is a danger when aerosolized. So the biggest danger isn't necessarily surfaces, though you should take that into consideration. I'm not saying don't. The biggest issue is respiration, people sneezing, coughing, breathing, getting particulates into the air that other people breathe in. On surfaces, it has a pretty short lifespan. That doesn't mean you don't take precautions. You still need to wash your hands and stuff. Just generally, it's not black and white the way you're talking about.
Initially. 5 days. 2, maybe? 3 days? Whatever happened to currency? Why didn't they ban currency? They managed
What are we doing?
to ban everything else. Why didn't they ban cash and coins?
Man, it's almost like this wasn't a big conspiracy and your understandings of all of this are really bad anyway.
Of all things, coins would be even worse. I can understand paper, but a coin? Wow. No, they never banned that, but they banned everything else. They banned you from going to the beach. Remember that? No beach time for you. You're banned. Cash was flowing around.
If it's a beach that was closed, yeah.
And it always will be. There will be never an end to cash.
Okay.
It's always going to be there. Drug dealers, the prostitutes, shall we say, you know, the...
Fucking what? What is happening? What is this train of thought? What is it doing?
Whatever they call them. It's all being...
Sex workers.
Paid by cash.
Not necessarily. You can get Zelle payments.
Anyway, just wanted to touch base with everybody.
People have had those, like, card things to plug into their phones forever. You think there aren't drug dealers who probably take Zelle? Or, like, what's the other ones? Venmo? Like, you think there aren't drug dealers taking, like, digital transfers? Noah Pickle says, come see the CC train of thought. You'll never know where it's gonna end up. Yep, Jerry Springer used a personal check. Famously.
Happy Friday. And happy Veterans Day. I don't even want to get into that, okay, please? Another video. All right, thank you for subbing. I thank you for viewing my videos. Let me be a part of your life.
Oh, Chris. Not great. Not great. Your drug dealer uses Google Pay? Alright.
When people finally wake up to the truth that we do not live on a spinning ball, but rather a non-rotating level plane, and what is above, below and beyond, we still don't know, the first question they ask is, why the lie? Why the lie? So many people have said they believe the lie is because they don't want you to know who you really are, which we know that we are very powerful people. Our mind is very, very powerful.
I wish conspiracy theorists didn't wear just all of their insecurities so firmly, like, on their sleeve. I feel like a dick, but, like, how can you not point out, like, obviously that this person feels insecure about their, like, purpose, their significance, or lack thereof in an indifferent universe? Maybe even just amongst other people, so they feel the need to come up with conspiracies that place them in a place of, like, high regard. They know the secret. They're special. They're powerful. They're hiding things from us because we're too powerful secretly. If things were normal how they should be, I'd be doing much better. Same shit over and over again.
They want to keep resources from you. They want you to believe that unless we go and find other planets, we're going to run out of these resources.
Oh boy!
They want you to take your...
So she doesn't believe in non-renewable resources? Oh boy.
Away from God. And so on and so forth. However, for me, I've come to the conclusion the biggest lie is because they want you to believe you live in a fictional world. Therefore, your fictional character, which is known as your straw man, will work in that world.
But people who don't think the Earth is flat, most people don't think the world is fake and that their persona or personality is a straw man? What are you talking about?
So when we look at the word lawful and legal...
Oh no, it's Sovsit shit. It's Sovsit shit. Fuck.
There's a maxim of law that says he who creates it owns it. They've created a globe.
What are you talking about?
You see, in the natural world, God's world, nature, I say God, whoever that is for you, it could be natural creation sorts, whoever, but I'm just using God as a reference. You can't patent what is organic. They cannot take away and manipulate what is organic. They can create from it.
That's literally all humans have ever done, is take organic things and use them for our purposes and use them to build things. What are you talking about? That's like our primary, like, survival strategy is our ability to comprehend our surroundings and then use things in our surroundings to solve problems, to make tools, to change that environment to better suit us. What are you talking about?
But they cannot change it. So they cannot change the non-rotating level plane. But they need you to believe in them and not God. They need you to believe in fiction and not reality. So therefore they've created a globe. And on this globe...
That doesn't follow at all.
They control your mind. And on this globe, they register you. You see, they've created corporations. They've created birth certificates. They've registered your birth certificate to these.
It's more soft-sit stuff.
Corporations. A corporation is a dead entity. It's fake. It doesn't exist. Just like the globe.
It's a legal entity that exists. Like, social constructs or legal constructs in this case aren't not fake. They're just constructs. They're tools that are used for purposes within the legal framework or within the social framework. Like, how do you not get this? Is Matrix 4 any good? I didn't like it. If you look at it as almost a meta-narrative about how stupid it is that they made, you know, her come back and write a Matrix sequel, it's okay, but as an actual Matrix sequel, it's pretty bad.
They've made you believe you are living on a spinning ball on this world that doesn't exist, and they call it a globe. And on the globe we have globalism, we have global warming, we have globalists.
Literally none of the things you just listed have any bearing on the actual shape of the Earth. Like, at all. Like, let's say the Earth was flat. All of the things you just described would just be called something different. That doesn't change the underlying things talking about. And I am so tired of the term globalist or globalism to mean evil or bad. Holy shit, we all live on the same planet together. Yes, you need to think of the economy, social structures, and life on Earth globally, because that's where we live. We aren't on little islands separated from each other. We all exist, and all of the things we do affect each other. Society is global. Period. Fenekagami says, before your straw man, think ma'am. Before your straw man thing, ma'am, literally none of the things you said are good reasons for the lie. All those things are able to be accomplished on a flat Earth, you know, is flat. It doesn't make any sense, agreed. And Stone Corbell says, eventually all of your shows are just going to merge into one giant blob of conspiracy nonsense. Yeah. My show has no mouth, but it must scream.
All of it doesn't exist. Global warming doesn't exist.
It does.
It's all fake.
Nope.
You see, in this fake world, on this globe, we have digital currency. Doesn't exist.
What are you talking about?
They create money from thin air.
What do you think money is? What the fuck do you think money is? Hello. What's up? I missed you. One sec, chat.
We have your straw man, which is there to become part of the commerce system, contract system, because you see, you as a person can't do business without your straw man.
Yes, you can, because the straw man isn't a real thing.
So they need to create a separate world, a legal world, where you can be your straw man.
This is so weird that you're describing this. Legal systems exist as social constructs and sort of vague agreements between people that are generally written down and abided by. They're abstract trust relationships and rules that people agree to abide by. It's not magic. It's not something that requires you to cast some secret spell to entangle you in. It is literally just a functional part of society wherein people with authority delegate the responsibility of upholding laws to different organizations, whether it be the police or the judiciary or whatever. Like, it's not magic, it's a descriptor of a governmental social construct? I don't know if that's just hard for her to get her head around or what.
And in that world, they make you believe that you have to pay taxes.
Legally you do.
You have to give away your hard-earned money. In that world, they have taken away what God has naturally given you, which is dominion over the earth. They've taken away the land.
Just so you know, in the Bible, it says man has dominion over the earth. People in charge of governments are also people, so.
Air and water from you. And because you do not know where you live, you have given it to them.
Again, the shape of the earth is irrelevant to this whole conversation.
You have given up your right of dominion over what God naturally gave you. It's even in the Bible.
Oh man, maybe read literally any other book. Read a second book.
And you have decided to live in a fictional world called the Globe. And there, they own your mind. You see, in this fictional world, they register. Everything is registered, and you've registered your rights away.
Literally, how are you going to defend your property rights if there's no official record that the property is yours? Like, you can't defend your own property rights as an individual against an infinite onslaught of people who don't respect it. That's why we set up ownership of things through governmental institutions that then enforce that property right.
Rights that you were given from birth. You've registered your children away. You've registered your car away. They've taken away what is yours.
Again, if your car is stolen and you want to prove, hey, I need this car back, the registration is what allows them to know you actually own the car.
And you are not ready to claim it back, because if you are not ready to realize that you have your own senses, your own eyes, your own feelings which tell you we are not spinning.
I don't think you understand how momentum works.
This is all.
The government took my God-given car.
All a lie. Pull back the curtain and realize you live here and you own an equal share of the earth, and they've taken it away from you. In this fictional world, they create currency. They create birth certificates.
Okay, how are we going to determine where resources go in lieu of currency? What would you like to do in order to accommodate trade, both with goods and services? Do you want to go to a barter system? Because we've tried that. There's a reason currency was invented.
They create contracts. They create your straw man. They create slavery. They've created slavery because you don't know who you are.
Okay, I'm done with this English lady speaking nonsense. Yeah, the kids aren't your property thing, that's annoying. Alright, we're probably done for the day. We've been going 3 hours. Okay, slavery predates the Bible. Let's be accurate here. Come on. Seriously?
This is...
Alright. Love you too, Mr. Blast.
Love you, Father.
Let's see who we will raid. Alright, good night everyone. Sorry. Weird dead air. I was reading something. Alright, have a great night everyone. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.